things. I like to
Why
do
not be
two.
efficient?
Why not be efficient? I mean, technically, I suppose I could just get it from the stream when it's done, and I could download it. But why do that when I could just record locally? That's fun too. Um,
Yeah.
sure, sure. I'll just say yes. That sounds good. All right. Well, for anyone who happens to be joining us on over on Twitch, thank you for joining us. If you're hearing this later, also good. That works too. Uh, Alex is hopefully going to be with us momentarily. I have a feeling he's probably just getting the small one to bed at the moment, um, which is something he likes to do right around this time on Saturday. I don't know what that's about. But we are really happy to be here. We actually are going to try something interesting today and have actual topics of conversation. It's a novel idea that we thought we would try out. Um, the last time we did this, I was kind of loosey goosey about it, and I was like, we're going to talk about our plans for 2019. Yeah, 4 hours later, we never got around to doing that. So I think maybe more focused topics might be in line. um, and we do have a few to go over. But of course, Steve, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm actually doing pretty well. Weathered the most of the cold weather. It's up to about 35, 36 where I am now, which is like hot.
Yeah. Oh man, that must be nice. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
it got pretty down there, pretty far down there. But we're warming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to figure out how cold it is right now. I got to look up my Oh, okay. It says it's -2 here. Okay, that's good. Um yeah, welcome to the mountains.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's great, but it's also really cold sometimes and warm some other times. It's weird how weather works in New Hampshire. Um, but
I believe it.
yeah, it really is. The wind comes whipping down the mountains, and it brings all the cold air with it. Um, home of the world's worst weather, by the way, Mount Washington has that title. Home of the world's worst weather. It is not like the tallest mountain. It's not like Everest or anything, but they have the most extreme weather patterns recorded because they have an actual weather station up there. So the highest like recorded winds and storms and everything like that has a tendency to be on Mount Washington. It can be pretty brutal. It's where you'll see those pictures of like the rye ice, where it's just like horizontal sheets of ice that end up on the equipment. Because of
Oh
all the
gosh.
because the wind just gets the condensation in the air and starts creating these long sheets that just like span straight outward. and so and it's also where you see those great pictures from the Mount Washington Observatory where they just gave up trying to get through the first floor because it's just too covered with snow, and they make like a bridge up to the second floor window so they can get into the building.
Oh goodness. I've seen those. That's
Mm,
where they come from?
chances are, yeah, because well, like there are mountains. I'm sure there's a lot of mountains that have some pretty terrible weather, but Mount Washington is one of the few that has like a year-round observatory. So
Okay.
so all year long they have this pretty sophisticated observatory. And if you've ever gone up there since before we get into the actual topic, see this is what always happens. I get off on another subject. But if
Well,
you
we got to
ever
give people a chance to show up.
yeah, of course we do. We're in the interim. We're in the laissez-faire holding court. If you go up to Mount Washington, and I have several times, don't take your own car. Just take the auto road, folks. They have machines that are made for this. It's like 10 miles to every mile you use in wear on your car to get to the top. But when you get yeah, your car is basically dead by the time it gets down off that mountain. Um, if you go up to the top though, they have their own post office up there. There's a train station that actually the railway goes up there. You see hikers from all over the place. There's a whole cafeteria, a gift shop. There's a museum down And this is all basically like at the highest point in our mountain range in New Hampshire. Just right up there at the top. There's a whole parking lot, observatory spaces, exterior spaces. You can get lunch at the cafeteria. And it's like a little community. You'd be surprised for like an inhospitable weather ecosystem. There are probably at any given time at least 100 people around up there.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, when we went up this last summer, oh my God, the cafeteria was full. There were probably 200 or more people up at the summit. It's a bustling place. They have their own zip code. Like it's pretty crazy. But because they've been able to continuously record weather for like over 100 years now, they have some of the highest recorded winds, the highest recorded snowfall, the highest the lowest temperatures, highest temperatures. Um, and so it's really interesting to see. Oh God, I remember when I was a reporter, I used to call up there for the weather every week, and I think they were going, "Oh yeah, I think we set a new record for this week." It was like I think we had a wind gust. It was like 112, 113 miles or something like that. I'm like, did you fall off the mountain? um, I think their highest was like 130 or 135.
Oh
Something.
gosh,
Yeah.
I have no idea what the actual speed or force measurement was, but I have childhood memories of being on a family vacation in North Carolina, and my father thought it would be a great idea to take the entire family up Grandfather Mountain, I think it's called.
Okay.
Um, which is, it's not the highest point, and the weather was not extremely hot or extremely cold, but it was extremely windy, so windy that we have photographs of my sister actually being blown off her feet and holding on to the chain of family members
Oh
for dear
my.
life.
Oh boy.
High winds,
Yeah.
they happen.
Yeah. No, they certainly do. And it's always fun to have that Mary Poppins moment. You just pull it off your feet. And speaking of people who are also probably in inhospitable weather conditions at the moment, DC, thanks for coming in.
Hello.
Yeah, you had a little bit of a polar vortex over by you, didn't you?
Yeah, it was -2, -3 for a couple days.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I was just telling Steve, actually the temperature right here is -2 right now, according to the weather the weather channel.
Oh,
Um
wow. Yeah, we're
it's
getting a warm up of like 40 to 50 degrees tomorrow,
oh.
and then it goes back to being 20 by Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, okay. So do you have a lot of snow by you right now?
Not today, no. Last
Okay.
couple days were
Okay.
pretty
It's
hard, but
it's probably gonna melt somewhat tomorrow if you're getting a
yeah.
heat wave coming in. That's good. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen here anytime soon. It's yeah. Like I was telling Steve, it's the wind comes whipping down off those mountains in the presidential range, and just pretty much you're just pretty much snowed in.
And you wonder where those folk tales of hungry winter spirits came from. Well, that's probably where.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The thing that's really amazing is you always kind of think about like hikers when they go up in this kind of weather, and that we do have a lot of
Mm.
we have a lot of hikers that still are probably trying to get up like Tuckerman's Ravine or something right about now because they're insane. And it never fails during the winter, especially, and sometimes actually during the summer, but at least once during the winter, you will have somebody get stuck there, and we have to have a whole rescue crew go out. And usually somebody on the rescue crew doesn't come home. Um, it is just too trepidatious going up there, really any time, and people don't go equipped correctly. Um, they either don't bring enough supplies, they don't have the right kind of winter gear, or they are just not used to doing that kind of hiking. And they're like, "Yeah, I'll go up Tuckerman's," and it's like, "No, please don't. It's a dangerous mountain. It's just a dangerous. Even all the mountains, the whole presidential range is
Yeah,
just dangerous. Yeah.
Wow. The one of the big things here was the wind chill, where it was about -20, and if you were out
Oh.
for, I think it was 10 minutes, you would
Mm.
get frostbite on any exposed skin.
Yes. You have to be careful of that. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been cold here, but I think we get used to it. Like, but if you're not used to it, if you're coming up from a warmer climb, I think the notion that yes, if your skin is exposed long enough, it will freeze is somewhat of a foreign concept. When you hear that for the first time, people are like, nah, no, you don't have to be frozen for your skin to freeze. And it is not pleasant if it does. Just for the record. It's not like those cartoons where you see the guy in the ice block and then they thaw him out and he just needs some hot cocoa. No, it's
Oh.
not like that. Sorry. You're lucky if you get out of that ice block alive. You're It's not like the mammoths.
Yeah,
The
and
mammoths
it's
didn't get out of that alive either. But
yeah, the stories about how you lose 90% of your heat through your head. Well, it's because your head is exposed skin. You lose most of your heat through the skin that's exposed to the weather.
right. And heat rises. So it's always going to go through the top of your it's going to go through the top.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, wear hats and gloves, kids. Wear People don't remember to wear
Amen.
gloves. Yeah, people don't remember to wear gloves until you get into your car first thing in the morning after it's been a polar vortex and you grab the steering wheel and go, "Damn, I should have worn my gloves." I have that moment quite a bit. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Alex is probably asleep. That's fine. No, I think no. I'm pretty sure he's probably just trying to get Nikolai down to bed. But that's okay. I know he had a couple things he wanted to talk about, but since you are here, Steve,
Yes.
I think the first thing we'll talk about is the thing you wanted to discuss. If you'd like to illuminate me on what you're thinking about with your topic.
Oh goodness! And here I was actually coming in prepared to talk about the videos that you had
Well,
done earlier.
we'll get to that, but I figured Alex probably wants to talk about that too, and he's not quite here. But I would actually like to talk a little bit about because I've been thinking about it since you mentioned it. But just illuminate us for anyone who's not aware of what you wanted to discuss.
Absolutely. Let me take a really short running start at this. Hi, I'm Steve. One of my main hobbies is game design, especially tabletop role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
I both play and run them and also design them. And the thing about a tabletop role-playing game is whatever form it takes at any given moment in time, you have this central cast of characters. Sometimes it's the same cast of characters you began with at the start of the campaign. Sometimes it rotates, but you have this very tight focus because just like a play, whoever's on stage, so to speak, gets all the audience focus.
Right.
But there's this interesting conundrum that's been on my mind a lot, and it's the question of, obviously these are the most important characters to us, the actors and the audience,
Right.
but how important are they to the game world? Are they perforce actually like plot protected? Are they automatically the Luke Skywalkers of the world that you're set in?
Oh, okay. So I'm seeing what you're saying. Like, are we playing Final Fantasy or are we playing Suikoden? Essentially, what are the player characters' role in that world?
Mm-hmm. Or another genre that's been on my mind lately is the cyberpunk genre. I recently rewatched the original Blade Runner, and I was just struck by the idea that our hero Decker is obviously the viewpoint character of the movie. He's the main character of the role playing game, but if you were to look at the story, the main character, air quotes, really ought to be Roy Batty, the runaway synth
Oh yeah,
replicant.
yeah.
And both Decker and Batty are vastly unimportant compared to the people at Terrell Corporation.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Because I think that does kind of go into like my initial thought when you were mentioning that was
mhm.
sort of like a movie. You have your protagonist characters who are sort of like the player characters, but then you have the game world that's built, which is sort of like the world building that you have to do when you're making a movie. You have to have a world that they exist in. And so for me, I kept thinking, well, yeah, I mean, you need the protagonist, and the protagonists need to have a real story. Your player characters need to have a real story and an arc that you're following, but but you're basically seeing the world through their eyes. You're kind of experiencing it through them, and I still like to have the illusion that. And there's Paul. Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good, great.
Hello.
I literally just finished. I had watched Nathan's video like before, and I went, I should watch Nathan's video again. And I went, the id, the ego, got it,
Yeah.
got it. I like these concepts. I
Good.
forgot about them for a while,
It's
but
They are
it's
good
actually yeah.
Yeah.
If you're listening later, you should pause us and go watch it right now. If you're listening live, please don't. We're
Yes.
going to keep talking.
We're gonna
please
keep
do. If you haven't watched the video and you're currently listening, please watch the video. It's actually a really good in-depth
Oh, thank you.
crawl
Thank you.
into like the id, the ego, like classic Greek mind concepts that really
Yes.
should be explored. Like they're old as hell, but they really should be explored by modern audiences to
Thank
shift their perspective.
Yeah, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But I was saving that. I wanted to save it for a little bit because since Steve is
no,
here,
please. Save.
we will get to that though. I do want to talk about my thinking in that. But in terms of characters and their interaction with a game world,
Ooh.
I really I feel like every time your player characters are indeed that conduit into a game world. They have to have their own arcs, they have to have their stories, so they're going to be central characters. But in terms of the world, I really like feeling like the world is much larger than those characters. That there could be other stories, other characters, other groups that exist in that world, and it's not just revolving around the characters that you're playing.
Yeah, there was. If I could go into story time for another moment, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Go for
Please,
it.
please do.
So one of the things that brought this kind of into stark contrast is I'm in a regular weekly gaming group, and at one point we decided we love our games, but there's too many games and too little time, so we regularly rotate between people who just want to run something, and we run for a few weeks to a few months, and then we move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was back to back. Two different people were running games, and the first DM ran a very clever Dungeons and Dragons module, and he did a great job interpreting it. But one of the things that came out, and we did a post-mortem with him, was there were all sorts of elements in the module that we were looking at and we were thinking, oh, is this going to unlock something? Like there was a scale that if you could figure out the right weights, you could literally weigh any concept. You could, through the right conversions, figure out how many ounces to a truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting here thinking, well, when is this going to be useful? And in the postmortem, he said, well, it's not. This is a thing that was in this magical research laboratory. It's not for the characters. I mean, it was for the players. It's interesting. It's cool. There's a geological spectrum of the fantasy world that reveals stuff like an entire strata of compressed vampires, and it's like, whoa. But this had nothing to do with what we were doing there.
Right.
And then what happened immediately after that is the next DM took over, and the next DM took it to heart that, well, sometimes there's things in the game that aren't there for the characters, but the DM took it a very different way, and it culminated at one point where the players had been brought in for questioning in front of a higher authority, and basically the players sat and fidgeted for several hours waiting for anything to happen. And the DM later said, well, yeah, I wanted you to feel the same kind of bored and nervous that your characters did, because sometimes it's not for the characters. It's like, yeah, but we just sat there bored for 4 hours. Well, nothing happened, and you shot everything down. I think you took the wrong lesson here.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting problem where if your players don't experience this, they don't really know what's going on. But at the same time, if your players don't experience the mundane, the stupid, the absolute bullshit the DM will put them through, it turns into this sort of like, well, why are they here? Like, they don't need to be here. They're player characters. And I think this sort of your actions have weird ass consequences is just really fun. And more DMs really need to put their you need to put more shit. Oh god. Okay. Sorry. Also playing Dark Souls while talking. Sorry.
Oh, goodness.
That's a multitasker for you.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where your players have a very distinct mindset, and you have to find what is my player's mindset. What are their basis? What are their what are their influences that make them shift to a certain perspective? So as a player who has a DM who's remarkably flexible, and I thank them eternally for that, we as players do the dumbest shit that we can possibly pull off. Because,
Don't I know it?
well, because it's more fun for literally everyone. Yeah. On one hand, we could, follow the plot thread for a little while, or our fucking rogue could literally trick the entire party into doing some stupid, impulsive bullshit. Why? Why not?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Anyway, I think that's just bound to happen regardless. And
It takes over
For me.
It and your ego just take over, and who cares at that point?
yes, DC, you were saying something.
Oh, you were cutting in and out for me there, Nathan. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Oh, no.
So I missed like a paragraph of what you were saying.
That's okay. You know what? It wasn't important anyway, so don't worry about it.
Don't worry. I'm here doing the stupid summary. Therefore, nothing matters and everyone's okay.
Right.
It's like the opposite of what I'm doing. Oh god, stop stabbing me! Sorry, I'm playing Dark Souls.
Speaking of world building, that's pretty much one of the worst things that I could imagine. Like Dark Souls for me was just one of those games where I was too busy worrying that the thing was going to creep up behind me and stab me in the back to think about the world building. So I don't know if that's a great example for me, but
for me, as someone who I kind of grew up with like Nintendo games, but one of the weirder aspects of those games was you kind of wanted to talk to everyone just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
So Dark Souls actually promotes that ideology. Like games that Dark Souls is an example. It's not the game that's the perfect example for this. But there are many games like it that promote that ideology of explore, figure out what's going to happen. So people went all the way on the Solaire quest. Why? They wanted to see if he would survive.
Yeah.
Is this crazy sun-obsessed motherfucker gonna survive?
Yeah.
And you choose to go the extra mile to figure shit out. And I love games that reward you for going, but what if I try this?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of being able to explore and try different things, but I'm usually off-put by the idea that I'm probably going to die continuously. So I haven't.
I'm not really off-put by that since I die. No matter the game, I die continuously anyway.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm not good at video games. I'm just experienced.
Yes, there is a very different, there's a very specific thing between being experienced and being good. I've played video games for like 30 years. Do not ask me to do like Super Meat Boy. Not happening. Sorry, just not. I tried to play Celeste. I
Did you at
no.
least have some fun with Celeste? Because I've heard Celeste at least mechanically
I'm gonna tell.
translate to stupidity.
I will.
Oh god! Don't stab
I-
me!
Yeah, that's what I was saying during Celeste too. No, no, I'll tell you this. I'm really glad Celeste has an assist mode. That assist mode just makes the game so much better. I am so glad, because if you don't
died.
if you don't have assist mode on, prepare to continually die in the most fast-paced, insane platforming experience you may ever have, because it's
So-
gonna happen a lot.
I actually played a little bit of Celeste, and I will say I think assist mode is made for people who want to experience the game.
Yes.
So I get it. You know,
Yes.
not every game is made for every person.
No.
I think assist mode is made for people who want to experience the game.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
And that's
like,
exactly what
you
I
know,
did.
some
yeah.
games build themselves on the premise of we have a hardcore audience, or that Dark Souls has built itself on a mix of we have a hardcore audience or we're catering to a hardcore audience. You know, the game itself might not be built entirely for that, but the elements are oriented to that. Something like Celeste goes, I need you to know we have a basis of a hardcore audience, but I don't want you to not experience the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good change of pace.
Yeah.
Dark Souls set an interesting precedent where Dark Souls didn't mean to be, hey, we're gonna exclusivize our content for people who are hardcore, and in all honesty,
Yeah,
they
no,
didn't
it's-
want that. They wanted
no.
people to just go, hey, let's go nuts about this game.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty
So-
much. Yeah, go ahead, James.
So effectively, what you're saying is if you're great at gaming, this game is for you. But if you suck, you can still play it. Is that what I'm kind of getting understanding out of assist mode?
That is what you are getting.
Okay.
What you are able to do with assist mode, as I was mentioned in the comments in Twitch, is after like the first level, I did the first level and it was like, oh, okay, this is not bad. And then the second level, and you're like, screw this. And so I was like, yeah, I've heard about assist mode. Let me look at that. Oh, I can just become invincible and give myself infinite boosts. Well, that's going to make this way easier. I'm just going to do that. Because the game is built so that you figure out how to get gems so that you can continuously boost and do all of this platforming challenge. If you're invincible and just have infinite boosts, you can basically just zoom your way through each one of those challenges to get to the end of the level. And I pretty much did that because I was like, well, you know, the characters are really well done, and I like the concept and the story, and it does look like they tried to make a fairly realistic interpretation of characters in this world. But I can't do this. I don't... Like, I could probably do it if I spent a whole lot of time to learn how to properly implement all the mechanics and figure out a way for my fingers to be way, way faster at this. But I just... for me, at this point, there is a point where I just kind of go, do I want to bother? Yes or no? And Celeste, about the second level, I was like, no, I really don't. I don't care about getting better at this game. I just want to see what happens. Just get me to the end, please. And so they created
Yeah.
that for that reason.
And I don't mind its existence. Like I'm of the opinion that high level play or high level rewards should not be restricted due to the fact that YouTube exists. People are just gonna share it anyways. Who cares? If you're gonna be really exclusive about it, like fuck you. You should not you should not exclude people from your game, even. But you should at least let your players understand high level content, but you should not prevent people from understanding what you want to say. Oh God, I killed myself. Good job, me. Still playing Dark Souls, by the way.
Welcome to Dark Souls. But
But
since
it's one of those things where
This
I
is-
love that Celeste gives you that little bit of assistance. That it's
Yeah.
no, it's not just about high level play.
Right.
It's about translating a message and
Yeah.
giving you a sense of what we're trying to give you. No, not everything's meant for everyone. Who
Right.
cares though?
yeah,
It's not about being for everyone.
Mhm.
It's about having a message with difficulty and really translating that into what you want to say. I died again.
This is the new Dark Souls speedrun category, podcast percent.
yeah. Well,
Honestly, if this turns into a podcast, I'd love if there was a count of every time I went, well, I'm dead.
don't worry, I got my little clicker out.
And I just actually wanted to bring
But,
this one up
yeah, no,
because
I do love that Celeste kind of says, well, we're not here to make the hardcore audience happy. We're here to just do what we do.
Right.
And they do. Oh, God! Let me
While-
alone! Sorry, sorry.
While Paul is dying continuously, yes.
I'm not
Steve-
dead yet!
there was
Okay.
there's one thing I wanted to mention because this I don't know if the Twitch chat is being preserved for the recording, but Ikoma Tanamori in chat mentions a game called Cultist Simulator, which is also one of my addictions.
Yes.
And did point out that the creator of the game has gone on record saying, "Hi, I built this game, I wrote this game, and if you, the player, want to literally go into the plain text save file and set up the game to have certain conditions just so you can challenge it, so you can approach it, so you can overcome something that's giving you specific difficulty, just do it. You have my blessing, go for it.
Yeah.
And we're not even going to lock the achievements away if you're worried about the achievements.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the specific thing is modifying your game to the experience you want.
Right.
And on one hand, yeah, some people want that hardcore challenging experience. That's fine. You want players to have to work their way towards oh god, stop. You want your players to have that experience of challenge and what you built. But sometimes it's not about the environment and bosses. It's about what you want your player to see, what you want your player to feel, and what your player needs to understand about the environment you built.
Yeah.
And if gameplay translates that for some, that's great. If it doesn't translate that for everyone, and you're just here to really bring that into focus, I'm not gonna be the one to say your easy mode should not exist because you want. Fuck off! Oh god! Oh god! I died.
I love
your
how
easy
we're
mode
talking
should
about
not-
easy mode while you're playing Dark Souls.
But seriously, your easy mode should not be. If you want an easy mode, if you want something to help, like Dark Souls,
Dark Souls should have had an assist mode.
Summon.
Would have-
They do. It's called summoning friends.
yeah.
Well, there's a strategy game, BattleTech, came out last year, and one of the things that I appreciate when they implemented a difficulty setting, they implemented multiple different difficulty sliders, and you can independently say, well, I actually want the procedurally generated missions to have easier enemies, or not the AI, just the actual values of the enemies on them. Or you can say, well, leave the difficulty where it is, but give me more payout for my missions. Or, I want to turn up the difficulty for salvaging my giant robots, so keep the play difficulty where it is, or move the play difficulty up or down, and make it take twice as much giant robot parts to build a new giant robot. And that kind of modular difficulty is really great for getting the experience you want, because I play a lot of strategy games, and frequently there will be like just one thing or two things that give me trouble, and most of the game is fine, but this one mechanic I just can't get over, or this other roadblock keeps me from progressing. And so the ability to say, well, let's not deal with that, but still play the game is huge.
I'm in the same boat. Every once in a while, I'm really not one for. Unfortunately, I'm really not one for strategy RPGs. I hate that because some of the coolest stories come from those. But every once in a while, it's like I can't do this turn-based combat. Oh God, I can't do this sort of weird balance of skills and flavor, and it just doesn't work for me. And I'm glad that some games give me the option of changing how it works, how it plays out.
Yeah.
Died again, by the way.
Yeah, I got that.
How these things translate into mechanics,
Mhm.
and the fact that there's this flexibility in mechanics really helps me feel what you meant, but not lose your purpose.
Right. Also
So
fun.
long as it's explicit.
Yeah. fun programming.
That's the big one.
Yeah, fun programming note too. Since Steve, you were mentioning BattleTech, anyone who has not caught up on Delve, we had Ryan Chappell's on for our 200th episode, and Ryan worked on BattleTech. I knew him from something else, but he actually had written instances, I think. Yeah, he died again. He wrote instances. I believe he was working on writing some of BattleTech for the new expansion that they did. So we got to talk to him about the difference between tabletop and digital. Yes, James.
I guess I can kind of relate to the whole difficulty thing, kind of from the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Poke nerd. I've been playing
Heard about
Pokemon since I was like, 9, 10.
Me too.
I still love it.
My question for you is, how old are you? Because
I'm only 17.
Okay, so you've got 7 years less than me.
Yeah.
I've been playing since I was 5.
Hey, let's not block nerddom. We're all
No.
There's no age limit.
I do.
But
I think it's interesting. Yeah.
I was a casual my whole life until like 5 years ago.
I may have the type weakness chart memorized.
Oh God.
So
wait.
that.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm realizing, like, I started playing Pokemon. I wasn't much older than you when I did, but I was playing, like, Red and Blue. Because it was, like, the first thing that came out. What was the first Pokemon game you actually played?
Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Cynical will always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
has a special place for a lot of people. So.
It does, though my first game was Silver.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Mine was Soul Silver.
But you were saying
first
about
game was Yellow, so
that's a good one.
That's a good one. Because you got
you were saying
Pikachu.
about difficulty from the other side.
Yeah. So I love the concepts of Pokemon, and I love some of the different mechanical ideas they have in it. But one of the things that drives me crazy about the game is the difficulty curve. It's like the before post game, most Pokemon games are not that difficult, and the farther the more games they make, the more it seems like it's intentional. Like Sun and Moon is by far one of the easiest games I've played. I haven't even beat it because I got bored halfway through because it was like handing the challenges
have a
to me.
fighting type, have a random ghost type. Here, just do what you want.
And it eventually feels like a grind. The point, it's just a grindy game, and you're not really making any progress because it's just all being handed to you. You're doing the same thing over and over, and there's no reward to that. And then I discovered Pokemon Insurgents, which I'm playing right now, and on my channel, which eventually I will link probably because hashtag shameless plugs.
Right. Me too.
Fair.
Yes.
I've been playing that, and it's surprisingly difficult. It's really difficult for a Pokemon game. I've already almost died 3 times, and I haven't even gotten past the first area.
Oh my!
So it's really pleasant because I'm recording this, and it feels like it's actually a challenge, and I'm really fighting for my place in the game. And so I can understand how, like, on one hand, you don't want a game that's super difficult because then you lose a lot of people, and you need to be able to modulate that for people that don't want to play really difficult games. Um,
Right.
but you also want to have games that are really not so easy that it feels like they're just handing it to you. You want to have this nice little balance between difficulties.
Mm.
Another example I can think of is Super Mario Maker. I don't know if any of you guys have ever messed around with that, but I like to get on and play the levels online and like look at the different levels.
Mm.
And there are levels out there that are just absurdly difficult. And it's like, who wants to play these things unless they're just looking for something to prove? Because it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't play it.
Died again.
And
Yeah.
oh, surprise!
I'm playing Dark Souls while talking to you all, so I'm just bringing it
Yeah.
up every time I
Yeah,
die.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just a quick programming. Yeah, another programming note for everybody who's just joining us, because I know a few people are. Is while we're talking, Paul is currently playing Dark Souls 3, right?
Yep.
So if you hear him go oh or something to that effect, you know exactly what happened. Just for the record. Just in case you're wondering.
Ow.
Oh,
Pulling in another thing from Twitch chat,
yes.
Akoma Tanamori again with the observation that Super Mario Maker is arguably objectively the best game ever made because there are more possible fun levels than there are particles in the observable universe.
Yes,
So that's not fair due to the fact that there are humans involved.
I mean, it's totally fair. It's just some of them are unplayable.
Well,
I
not
do
the,
love the fact
not the
that
ones
there
that
Well,
are
no,
published
not
for
the ones that
sharing.
are fun though.
So the most fun ones in my opinion for Super Mario Maker, there are three types of fun in there. There's the super challenging, you have to get this exact set of inputs, but you can get it.
Mm,
The just hold down right trigger and you will get there.
yeah.
And then the I made a legitimate Super Mario Bros. Level, have some fun.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't actually played it. My first console in, oh gosh, almost 20 years. My first console in forever is the Switch, and so
Right
I haven't
again.
actually played. Yay, ding! I haven't actually played Super Mario Maker, but I remember hearing about this, and I remember thinking this was actually genius. You correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't actually publish and share a
a level
level
you
that you
can't.
haven't beaten.
Correct.
Yes. So it's almost impossible to make a truly unbeatable level. And
Mm.
when they added checkpoint flags, you had to beat it from all the checkpoint flags as well to prevent you from uploading impossible levels.
So people would go like, if I started from this point, it's possible. But if you know, oh god, stop it, stop it. Yeah, people would try to upload these like terrible levels that
Yeah.
you know, if you died midpoint, which is entirely possible, I should not be alive.
Mhm.
It's entirely
Yeah.
possible to die at this midpoint, but you know, if you started from the beginning like me, you could win it. So
Yeah.
it's like this sort of like the checkpoint system, rather than being a trick like some people would try to put it, dead again. Rather than the Mario Maker system was actually really smart in that at no point can you trick someone into an unplayable state. And I think that
Oh,
was very important.
you can do it. I made a few unbeatable quote unquote unbeatable levels in my time. They weren't really unbeatable. It was just very difficult.
But
Um,
that's part of the fun of it, is making
right.
this pseudo unbeatable level.
One
Like,
of them
that's-
was really trolly because it looked like you could beat it in a few different ways and that you couldn't. And then there was a secret.
Well,
Mm.
that's kind of the point. It's like, it's
Yeah.
not about being truly good or unbeatable. It's about how can you trick someone into a DM's there's one solution to this kind of bullshit.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And interestingly, I think even in some of those levels where there is one solution, there are possible brute forced or accidental or how did that happen? You weren't supposed to win that way solutions.
And
Right.
that's the best result of any of these, in my opinion. Oh God! Okay, dead again.
I remember my brother made a Super Mario level once, and like it was just filled to the brim with bullet bill launchers. It was so bad it would lag out our console from time to time. And he literally spent weeks trying to beat it, and he finally beat it. And about 2 days later, we come back to it and find that they've removed it because it's quote unquote unbeatable. It wasn't really, it was just really difficult. And I'm like, guys, come on.
But
Get the fire flower. 1, 2, 3. Now, bounce.
This is not supposed to be.
Get
This is
killed
not the
because the
spirit of what
levels
we want. Oh God, stop!
fucking
There's
garbage.
7 of
Now
you.
this
Fuck
looks
off!
like a fun level. It's not. It's not a
Yeah.
fun level.
The mods do
That
a good
roughly
job.
translates to
Yes.
Grandpa's.
I
I think-
appreciate that there's a sort of system in place going. I see you're trying to do a thing, but this is gonna frustrate more people than it's gonna actually.
Right. It was really irritating to him at the time, but I can understand how some people would be like, I don't want to play that level. Because I certainly never played that level. I think I
And if-
deleted it, actually.
6 mods come up to you and say, "Not my thing. Not what we want to promote." Because we're actual representatives of. Oh, fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off!
We're representatives.
Don't mind me.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
dying.
Every time you die in the middle of a sentence, it makes this
so
strangest.
common. So yeah, the sort of like the mods don't want it. You don't died again. The mods don't want it. They see that there's a problem here. You really should be more cautious. And like, I get you want to have this really improbable situation, but it's not going to be fun for anyone who stumbles upon it. I appreciate that.
Yes, I do as well, especially after a few getting trapped in 100-man levels or 100-man runs or whatever they're
Jump
called.
off.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I can't really complain that much.
Yeah. When I find it, I've been looking for a video because I had seen a video where I was like, oh God, some people are just evil when it comes to
Oh,
this
there's
game.
plenty.
Oh
You gotta be
yes.
more specific here.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
that's
Donkey.
pretty,
I can tell. So it's like one of 2 videos, and there was this one point where he was like, "Oh, this is a simple one," and you know that if he's gonna say that, it's not. But it was just like a straight line, and you're sitting there like, "Oh, okay." And he gets to the very end of this straight line that he's supposed to go through, and a Koopa shell comes down and starts chasing him. And so he's like, okay, I'll
Oh.
jump over it. And he hits a invisible brick. And,
Oh, no.
and it's a coin brick. And he's like, oh God. And he's running back, and it's just coin bricks right above his head the entire way back. And he's like, oh no, what have you done?
We're devolving into the bullshit point. Oh God, nope. You are
Yeah.
not allowed to hurt me. Hey, your friend can leave too.
They run
I'm-
out as the worst.
I'm
times.
slightly offended. Not gonna lie. I don't know why you want me to leave, but I'm not leaving, and I'm not taking any of my friends
Not
with
taking
me.
your
Hey,
friend.
dude, it's video bastard here with
I'm not
another.
here to make you leave. I'm here to make you be pained.
Yeah.
I'm
Pain?
here to hurt you.
Oh, that's super consoling, I guess.
I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just here to torture
This is a
you
very,
in a
and I
fun
win.
way.
What? Oh
That
shit.
totally sounds like something that will come out of my mouth. I'm not gonna lie.
So, Adam,
Oh,
this
found it.
clearly makes us friends.
Yeah,
or frenemies.
something
it.
like that.
Friends, cronies, phonies. I don't care what the word is. I'm just gonna use it.
And for the record, it's like the first thing on that video. is that level. Yeah.
For those of you not in our Discord chat, you can just type that in.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I would
wow.
highly recommend joining the Discord chat. Let's be honest.
I know Donkey
It's a
really
good
needs
it's a good
the pub-
place.
Oh
Donkey
God!
really
Oh God!
needs the
No, 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 no,
publicity.
no, no.
Uh,
Okay, never mind.
He needs more views. But
I love joining the Discord, talking, and then going, dying in my own game.
welcome to
Let's-
the reenactment of Paul dying over and over again. It's like his acting reel. Welcome.
My acting reel is me experiencing life. Constant death and destruction, and nothing is happy.
Oh my God.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Only my sheer positivity of attitude breaks you through the monotony of death.
That's fine. Yes. Filled with determination, Paul gets through.
Fine, whatever.
Okay. Anyway, taking it back on to the subject we were just brokering. It was about characters and world building. We were talking about that.
We were,
got off on a
yes.
Were we?
tangent. We were. I was waiting to talk about other stuff, but I figured since Steve was here, we would tackle his issue first. So about characters and world building, and not the literal world building of Mario Maker, but like the creative world building of a tabletop realm. See how I segued back there?
That was-
I love it. I love
That's
it.
I'm
professional.
a
It's too
professional.
professional. for
Yeah,
me.
sorry.
I have to oppose it.
I really want to be part of this conversation, but I will have to be right back. I promised my mother I would eat some of the baked apples she made for dessert tonight.
Oh man.
So I will be right back.
Put some
You
extra
go be a
away
good
from me.
child.
I will.
And he didn't bring enough to share with
No.
everybody?
Right?
He didn't.
It's disturbing. Why would you do such a thing to any of us?
Just terrible. But yeah. So other people, I already kind of said what I thought about the relationship between player characters and game world. But if anyone else has thoughts or anything that they'd like to add,
I think the relationship between player characters and game world should be tentative at best.
yeah
As someone who is mostly player character,
yeah
the relationship they have should be dangerous and possibly destructive. Because
yeah. I'm
I
seeing that.
played a lot of player characters,
Mhm.
and the best experience I've had has been you're clearly able to fuck up, you're clearly able to break shit. We're not going to give you a free pass. We're going to give you the chance to fuck everything up and hurt people.
Yeah, I get this thought in my head, like when I see modules being made and things like that, that if you assume that you're making a thing where multiple groups, multiple kind of player characters can exist in that world, you've done a pretty good job, because then it's not really focused on just the fact that certain characters are in it, but you're also expanding it so that any kind of group of characters could exist in this world. That you've kind of expanded upon that in some way. So you create a world that, maybe the player characters that you're working with, that you have in your group, are going to get a good story arc out of, that they are going to be able to experience in a satisfying way, but at the same time, have it expansive enough that it doesn't have to be that specific group. The world can be bigger than those characters.
The world should be bigger than the characters.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's like
Unless your
something
character
that
is Galactus. But yeah,
no, even then the world, the individual planet
Please
world.
stop hugging me. Oh, God.
But this is something that I've seen. I'm blessed with a very mature, very solid group of players as my primary group now. But learning the ropes as a DM through D&D, I cannot even begin to count the number of times that my players would basically sass off to the king or the grand sorcerer or the ambassador to the Underdark or what have you, because, well, what are they going to do? We're the main characters. And
Right.
then if you
Fun fact.
well,
No, you
now,
don't.
now I have a group that will actually take that and take the consequences, and the story will be in the consequences. Back then, if I tried to drop the consequences on them, I'd be looking at a riot, because how How
How dare
dare?
you? We are the player characters. How dare you interrupt the story? Well, you shot the fucking king. How
You
dare
took his
you?
pants. I steal his pants.
Well,
Yep.
you don't. Everyone stabs you before you get there.
Mm-hmm.
How dare!
What if I sneak
No.
attack him with a ballista?
That too.
You'd have
Well,
to
in
get
5th edition,
Knight
you
Rogue.
actually could.
I hope someone got that reference.
Yep.
Good.
I unfortunately did not, but my immediate thought is I can build that.
Lots
It's
of
a-
level
it's a-
1 bards.
It's a
Oh,
great
God.
reference.
How much for the bards? Is that the?
Oh,
Line of the
goodness.
Bard. Yeah, no, as a DM from me, Nathan knows I have no qualms about killing characters.
No, you love it.
That doesn't
It's like a
surprise me.
thing. It's like a thing you do. You're
My
notorious.
personal thought on world building is that the world needs to be dynamic enough that the players, whether or not they exist in that world, the world is still going to go on.
Yes.
Right.
And their level isn't necessarily dependent on the things going around, and the things going around in the world aren't really dependent on the character's level at times.
Mhm.
So I've had static events that's like, all right, if this happens at this location, this will happen as a result, regardless of what player level is when they do this.
Yeah. Like a thing that I always get that always impresses me and I get really wrapped up in when I'm playing a video game, for instance, is when you start seeing things happening in the game world that are independent of you. And you
Yeah.
start to realize that, oh, I'm in this world and I might be important in the context of what I'm doing, but this world exists beyond me.
I died.
Like when I picked up like Skyrim for the first time, and there's those things where you're like watching the giants and they're herding the mammoths through the plains and stuff, and your soldiers are fighting just like out in the plains and stuff, and you're just a passive observer if you want to be. You're just watching the world interact with itself, and that's a really intriguing thing because you realize that yeah, okay, so if I weren't here, this world still exists.
Nothing would change.
Right.
Or
you
if I weren't here, someone would have died.
Yeah,
And that-
they'd find another Dovahkiin. It's okay. They'll find another
So
Dragonborn.
I do love these situations where if I were not here, someone would have died, and then they reinforce that with, "You were not here on time."
Yeah. Yeah.
That is probably so. What I like the Skyrim method of, well, if you hadn't been here, I would have died, Dovahkiin. And then the game that goes, well, protagonist, you decided to fuck off and do 17 side quests,
Yeah.
so I died.
There's a thing in like Metal Gear 5, like if you don't go to rescue one of the characters, it's a fairly major character, in a time frame, yeah, they're just dead when you get there. like the game's like, no, sorry, you screwed around. We
You
told you
done
it was
fucked up, son.
we told you it was an emergency, Snake. You should have gotten here faster. Sorry.
You probably should have done better, my boy.
Oh my
Probably
god.
shouldn't have been smoking all that weed, Snake.
Snake, I
Snake
understand
weed.
you're dummy thick, but you probably should have gotten here faster. And that is a fresh new meme. Oh God, stop stabbing me, please! I fucking jumped off the edge. Fuck.
So that means you died, right?
Uh-huh. I think that's the 8th death I've had in this entire joining this.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
You know what I really want to see done sometime, and we should probably just do it as a live stream for a game, is just have a game set in a world where the player characters aren't like the main story. Like they're doing other stuff on the side, but it'll be like the life of Brian.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Where your main characters
We are background plot, and therefore whatever happens isn't necessarily related to Oh God, leave me alone. Okay,
Well,
I'm good.
there was a
what
show.
we do is not necessarily important, but can influence the story.
Yeah,
right.
We are the D100 rules.
In other words,
Exactly.
it's important to our story, but it's not necessarily important
To the world,
the history.
the history.
It's
Exactly.
not necessarily world changing. So
we
you
are
got
not the fate of the universe. We are simply here.
Right.
yeah. So you got your party doing their stuff. There's stuff important to them, and then in the background you've got this other party that's doing these big, huge things that are affecting everything. I think that would be a really interesting story to play out.
But
I
front and
think-
center, you're hearing my cabbages.
Yeah, yeah. There was
I have actually played with this situation, and it's been super entertaining because you're sitting there with this sort of party that goes, well, there are a bunch of normally player characters who go, well, I don't know what the results of my situation is going to be, but I also know that I'm not a survivable person. I could easily fuck up at any moment. And just seeing the whole result of that concept, God, stop shooting me, come into fruition. Oh, God.
yeah.
Yeah.
That.
It's very interesting and very entertaining to see what happens when your entire player character model is broken into, well, what if my actions don't have as many consequences?
Like
Could
they
you
do
tell I
right
was being
now.
attacked?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No.
Oh, God,
No,
stop
you
stabbing me. Stop stabbing.
No, you hide your emotions real well, Paul. I'm not getting anything from you right now. um,
I'm just running through this area because I don't fucking care what happens to me. I just want all of these fuckers to die.
so I'm
Half
realizing.
of them are
is
gonna
a
kill
valid
themselves, and I
adventuring
don't care.
motivation.
Please leave me alone.
So I am
What did I
really.
miss?
Oh well.
I'm
lot of
currently
dying.
almost dying.
By the
I think
way-
I've died 6 times since you left.
Paul's dying.
Oh
a
wow,
lot.
that's impressive.
Trying to hit me, you assholes!
You know what?
I'm in a cutscene. Fuck off.
Yeah, I love it when they attack you in a cutscene.
Great. I'm about to be attacked
It's
because I'm grabbing an
the-
item.
I mean,
Greatest
talking about
thing.
the games not being for the player character. Yeah, it's a cutscene. I still got a sword.
Ow.
I will link that because Alex, I think that this is kind of what you're talking about. This was a show I watched. It was on for the one season, but it was called Powerless, and it literally took place. It took place in the DC universe. So Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and all of them exist, but this took place in like the Wayne Tech R&D lab. And it was like the people who just worked in that lab, like developing tech in this world. And occasionally there would just be like a supervillain would just come through the town and wreck some buildings, and they go, "Oh God, must be Monday." And they get their coffee and they go off to work, and they're like, "Okay, who's taking care of this? Do we know if anyone's showing up? No. What are we gonna do?" So they would try to create stuff like the umbrellas that would deflect rubble falling off of buildings, because this is like problems that common citizens have in these cities. Big.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Sure.
Forget about acid rain. We've got like rock rain. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Yes?
It's rock rain. Yeah. We got to do something about that post haste. So yeah, I thought it was cute. It was like done in office style sort of comedy, half-hour comedy. But that's the immediate thing that I thought of, Alex, when you were talking about that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would have just linked the Life of Brian.
Oh well, you could do that too.
That is an incredible
Mm.
way to think about it.
Ooh,
World
DC
building.
has shared a tweet from Mike Merles.
Start hearing it, but forcing players to tell you how the characters want to change the world. That's your campaign. Now put people in their way. Those are the NPCs you're playing. Your campaign is ready to roll. Alternately, Alex, what you're talking about is basically have your players tell you how the characters want to change the world, and then tell them, but what if they ended up with a desk job instead?
No. Then we're playing Office. Like that one robot chicken sketch.
I want it to be a great adventure. I'm a blacksmith. You know,
Blacksmiths can have adventures.
adventures in blacksmithing. Hey, it would be like Adventures in Babysitting, but with blacksmithing. That's what we could base it off of, Adventures in Babysitting. There's a campaign for you.
That'd make the best role-playing game
Wouldn't it?
ever.
Wouldn't it?
Tales from the Loop. You could probably do it with some existing systems pretty simply.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I
So
call
world
Elizabeth
building,
Shue.
yes.
Yeah. Yes, world building.
So my world building go-tos are Minecraft, Terraria, and yeah, that's pretty much it. No, I'm kidding. Although those do have an interesting building of the world aspect, but it's such a deep topic.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's what I like to do most of the time when it comes to role playing. Is sometimes I do like to get in the shoes and the nitty gritty of the PCs, but there's something just so appealing about making an entire world that's out to kill the players. There's just something fun about that. And then watching your players triumph over that because you haven't made it overly difficult.
And because players are a particularly pernicious and tenacious lot and will mess up your plans.
Oh yes, all the time. But I'm really good at messing up my players' plans as well. I have a group that we're trying to get back up after all the holidays. Everyone's a little bit busy right now, but we're getting there. That there's almost nothing quite as fun as world building for this group, because if you get the right group, you know, there's that old adage about the players are in control and the players make the humor and the players make it fun, right? The game masters have the opportunity to have a lot of fun in their games, depending on the group you've got. And especially if it's a lighter game. Like, I've done rabid man-eating squirrels.
Sounds like something Nathan would do.
Oh, yeah. It was exactly what crossed my mind when I did the rabid man-eating squirrels. Is that I'm like, oh, this is something Nathan would appreciate.
I would just play Squirrel Girl, don't worry. I am Doreen Green. Give me Big Joe. I'm on it. I'm on it. This is my world.
We have had small green humanoids that are pretty much indestructible, that speak in high gravelly voices and like flame. So basically goblins from Dungeons and Dragons, except you can't really kill them very easily. They're like made of rubber.
When you say you can't kill them, I would probably squish them into a chest.
Yeah. That's what they ended up doing. They either chopped them into little pieces or they basically tossed them away.
You know, anything I want to put into a bag of holding can stay there longer than the amount of time it would have air for. So, I mean,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
Kill things with suffocation.
Yeah.
We have had fun with, I believe I've spoken about this on the show once before, mental lentil elementals, my personal favorite thing of all time.
I think you mentioned that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So world building is like, I don't know, maybe this is just my perspective, but world building, at least from my point of view, it's not always doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't have to be like boring. It can be a storytelling experience for yourself and for the players, because there's always opportunities to go to your players and say, okay, what ideas do you have for my world? And what might be interesting landmarks or social aspects or whatever to do with it. And you can really play with your characters. I had one character unknowingly one character unknown to me knew an NPC that hadn't even been introduced yet and we only knew by name, because that's just the way he played with it. And it made for an interesting world building experience, because it ended up like they were from two different races, and like the area they were in was having like a racial war, and they really hated each other. But these two were from different races, but they were like best friends in their childhood, and they went their separate ways, and then they came back together, and there's this beautiful moment of like reconciliation. And I'm like, I couldn't have built that in there, but because by myself, but working with the players, I was capable of doing it, and it was really a fun, very sweet moment. in the story. And then people turned into dragons in houses. Things got burned down. I think one time there was a
Douche.
3-person combo that instant killed a vampire, which was really pleasant
Yeah.
to watch. So it got kind of silly and crazy from there. But with world building, at that point, hopefully I'm not getting too off topic here.
One
It
way to
stops
find out.
being.
I will go with you on this journey.
You guys shouldn't call it delve. You should call it tangent.
That's right. That's our
Well,
new
you'll get the math
our new
crowd if
show.
you do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Tangential.
Tangent, yeah. Yeah. Tabletop through math. Enjoy. Tangent.
I am probabilitor.
Now roll the infinity die.
Triple
Roll for proof.
triple integral, man. The worst villain I've ever faced. Oh, good lord.
Oh God, my worst
wasn't he as
enemy.
bad as a
math.
shopping
A shopping mall?
mall.
Yeah, you
remember
probably
the
haven't gotten to
shopping
that
mall.
episode yet, James.
No, I'm probably not.
Yeah.
You'll know when you do.
Fort
It's-
Ear in a shopping mall, you'll find it.
Oh
And
yes.
Steve was on with Ian, and yes, that is a scenario Steve will get much more into in that episode.
Okay.
You don't want to get me started now because I will not stop talking because there is a lot to talk about.
No, the shopping mall is a lot to unpack.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a
Literally.
shopping mall. You move it, and it's like
Oh,
10
yeah.
days worth of unpacking.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's true.
Yeah.
It can't be as bad as the gazebo, though, because the gazebo you have to face alone.
I think it's
You
probably
cannot hurt it.
worse.
It is, yeah. Well, I mean, it in a very real way,
Oh god, I
Each
opened
of
the
us-
peanut can, didn't I?
each of us have our own El Guapo to face. For some of us, El Guapo might be our height or our self-image. For us, El Guapo happens to be a large, angry man who is trying to kill us. The shopping mall is my gazebo, much like El Guapo is El Guapo.
El Guapo.
Oh, you haven't seen the Three Amigos, have you?
Infamous.
No. It's something I have to watch.
Yeah.
This, I think you will enjoy.
Oh man.
I think you will enjoy.
I just infamous. Oh, we've never met anyone who was infamous.
And it'll save you 12 pesos.
This is terrific.
There are very few movies that I believe are actual must-watches, but
Three Amigos is one of them. Yeah.
I'm not even going to say it's a must-watch, but I am going to say I've never had anyone disappointed when I recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are people that aren't going to like it, but it's just really good.
Yeah. It's an
It's
enjoyable.
like the Princess Bride, right?
Yeah.
It's up there with The Princess Bride, yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta love
See,
Princess Bride.
You say that,
Yeah.
and I've been told about this movie. I was told about this movie about these people in Africa who where a Coke bottle falls out of the sky and they go on a quest to
The
get rid
gods
of it.
must be crazy.
The gods
Gods
must be
must be
crazy.
Yep.
And it was
Gods are
they were like,
crazy.
"Oh, you should really watch this." I watched it. I'm like, "This makes absolutely no sense to me." It's like The Office. It's just I'm sure it appeals to somebody, but to me, it's just weird. There is the one line where he's like, "You've done a great thing for your people," or whatever, when he's talking to the baboon. That was kind of amusing, but the rest of it is like, I'm not sure what he's trying to get across to me.
Right. Yeah, Akoma does make a good point. An absurdist masterpiece is what he referred to it as. Which
That's very accurate.
yeah, which I do understand because in terms of art, absurdism has a certain way of dividing a lot of people on how you actually interpret it. But I mean, I would say Princess Bride.
Princess Bride is lovely.
Yeah,
I
Princess Bride
actually-
is impossible. not to
And
like.
I found myself enjoying it even more when I read the book, which is so the movie is an adaptation of the book, which is itself an adaptation of another fictional book, because the only version of the book that exists is the Good Parts version.
Mm.
Right.
It's well worth reading, and the movie and the book are equally good in different ways.
There is nothing like Princess Bride. Except maybe a muttonless tomato sandwich. The mutton is nice and lean, and the tomatoes are just right. So pricky. I love it.
Maybe Robin Hood Men in Tights, but
Men in tights. is pretty funny.
I still love Men in Tights. I know, I know it's not Brooke's best work, but it's darn funny. And you got to see Carrie Elways come back as like the roguish, hero one more time. That was worth
Yeah.
it. It was worth it.
Fits that role perfect.
He does. I wonder how they cast him. But bring back for 1 second.
Yes.
I actually had a question related to this since we kind of got on the topic and James was mentioning all the crazy kinds of characters that he's had. Is there a space where you can imagine the actual player characters by virtue of what their player characters are, starting to actually transform or build that world with you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that it kind of is a guarantee almost. As soon as you have other people telling a story or trying to tell a story in a world that you create, they're immediately going to start influencing how that world interacts. And that's the danger. That's why you have all the things about players screw up worlds, players are unpredictable, players break mechanics. Game masters are the storytellers, and we build our world, and then you get your players, and at least this is my opinion, you get your players, they come in, and it's like having a bunch of people trying to write your book with you. They're just going to come in and screw everything up. Because
Yeah.
As Ian in chat will confirm, I have a very frustrated phrase that has been heard from me much less often these days, but there are plenty of times when I will look someone in the eye and say, why don't you just go write your damn novel already? You'll be happier. This is a collaborative hobby.
Right.
Is it? Is it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Thanks for illuminating me on that subject. I thought. I mean, Steve knows from the game that we play, but it's mostly when I'm talking, it's pretty much the Remy show. That's why I try not to say too much too often.
Oh, I could tell you stories. I'm Remy in, well, not actually Remy, but I'm the Remy of another group that I was in earlier today, and it's when I open my mouth, it is very hard for someone else to step in because I just keep talking and talking and talking.
Yeah, I find it that sometimes I really wish someone would cut me off because I've run out of things to say and I feel like people want me to keep talking and finish.
We're enjoying it,
but I don't have anything more to say. Like the last one that we did, where for some reason, like I had this weird idea in my head because I was talking about how Remy really wanted to learn how to surf. And he had gotten his surfboard from the Ankeg Queen's carapace shell that had been crafted into a surfboard for him, and the folks at the manor just wanted to know, so what were your adventures like? And Remy kind of gets prompted, hey, tell him about the whole thing with like the board and that whole thing.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Oh.
My internet has been going in and out for the past few days, and it just blew up on me.
It's
back
having
now.
a day.
It's doing a drunk Paul died on you.
But at any rate, I had this weird idea of it came to me earlier of how would Rembrandt have known what a surfboard was in the world of Dungeons and Dragons? There was probably a ballad, and I'm imagining it was called Inspector Gidget, and it was about like this young girl who invented things so that she could fight crime, and she made a surfboard named Kit. No, basically it ended up being an Inspector Gidget Knight Rider mashup story.
Gadget never invented anything. In fact, Gadget was like useless.
So basically, she's Penny. Basically, you have to think of her as
Okay.
Penny. But I happened to mention that was a ballad. And so Dom's immediate thing was the lady of the house kind of goes, oh, good. Mr. Remy is going to regale us with a ballad. And we're like, oh, God. I did not think this through.
There's actually a very serious bit of gaming philosophy that's relevant here, believe it or not. And that is that I firmly believe the real game balance is actually not mechanical parity and mechanical equality, but spotlight sharing. And spotlight sharing does not have to be one-to-one equal. It just has to feel equal. Like, I'm playing the quiet one in that particular game. I mumble awkwardly when I'm in a social situation and then shoot things until they die. And I'm perfectly happy doing this. I'm perfectly happy with minimal spotlight time, but I get more than enough spotlight when it's mine. And so I'm fine letting Remy ramble on happily because I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in the thanks, Alex. As I mentioned in the chat, the actual ballad, the only thing I actually had was do Inspector Gadget do woohoo surfs up. That's all I had. But then no one says anything, and I'm like, oh, I gotta keep figuring out what the rest of this is. Okay. And then at a certain point, I think he's just kind of like, and then he sits down. And he stops. Because he had nothing else worth saying.
I'm with Steve on this one because my last character was kind of socially awkward because he was Dragonborn and Druid. So he wasn't very good in social situations or in town situations. And the social cues he picked up were from the half-orc that he was with, who, again, did not have the best social skills. I learned some very bad things and thought they were perfectly normal. And it was great.
Yeah. Ikoma makes a good point. Yeah, Rembrandt has his show over here, and Connor is in on it with him, and then Mina and Joey have this serious people show over here, and sometimes they intersect. That's pretty much our thing. Yeah, James.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. And
Yeah, Hef was fun. And,
Hef was fun.
Oh boy, I love Hef. I want to go play Hephaestus again.
Well, too bad.
Gotta bug David.
You gotta bug David. That's what you gotta do. Don't give David a bug.
I will bug the crap out of him. I can do whatever I want.
Anywho,
I have his phone number.
Yeah, great. Anywho, anyway, any other thoughts before we kind of wrap up our discussion about player characters and game worlds and building? Any other thoughts?
Well, I tend to make I think we all do this to some extent. It's make a skeleton of the story. Players come in, and you expect them to mess things up, and it's fine. I don't worry about it. Other things will happen if they go do something else.
Right.
And whatever they do also influences the story. Maybe I didn't want it to go that way. That's okay. I can make it go that way now because that's more interesting to them.
Right. And I remember the scenario you ran me through, which was the haunted house, and I felt like immediately when I got in there that this haunted house is like a thing. It's like an entity, and I know I can explore it however I want to, but it didn't have to be me going into that house. It could have been anyone, and they're going to experience it in a different way. Maybe get a similar experience out of it, but not the same one.
Did you just turn tail and leave? You walk in, go, wow, this place is haunted. I'm out.
No, I take away the door.
Yes.
Oh,
the
I
door
would enjoy
locks
if a
me.
player was just like, yeah, no, I'm out of here. Bye.
Yeah. No, I became the de facto door opener. I don't know why, but no one else wanted to open doors. And so Percy was like, fine. And he just kept using, because he was a monk and I had him with a quarterstaff. I keep playing monks with quarterstaffs, but he had this quarterstaff and he just used the quarterstaff to keep opening doors, just flip the lock and just keep opening doors for people in case they're trapped. He didn't have a 10-foot pole, but he had like a 6-foot pole, so that's good.
I use my other players as poles.
That does not surprise me, Alex.
I just take them and poke them into the ceiling.
Can you imagine if you were actually playing as a 10-foot pole? Wow.
No, I can't.
I can.
Wait, are we getting into boyfriend dungeon territory here?
God.
What?
There is an upcoming dating sim where you, the player, are an adventurer and or an adventuring party. I'm not sure which, and your weapons have personalities, and you level them up by dating them.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking
And
about.
I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Believe it or not.
I hope this is nothing like shower with your dad.
Is your dad a weapon that you could talk to and take on adventures?
Have you not seen that game on Steam?
Welcome back, James, to this conversation.
I heard showers with dads, and I went, "What?
Yeah.
Things
it's a
got
game
weird
on
in the
Steam.
last 3
Hold on,
minutes.
I'll find it.
No kidding."
Yeah,
Is that like Who's Your Daddy, but less appropriate for young children?
yeah,
I
way,
think that's
way,
less
way
appropriate than anyone in general.
Yeah.
Hold on.
But at any rate,
I got this. I got you, fam.
oh god,
It's lit, son.
oh
Oh,
god, I'm
hold
so
on.
scared.
It won't
I'm
let
so
me. Hold on.
scared
I
right
got
now.
this.
Oh my god.
Let me.
Anywho, so yeah, you
Wow.
can date your weapons. Great. I just. And hey, you know what? I'm all for any system that
There you
lets
go.
me.
It's in
Great.
chat.
Thanks for that. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
just
I love that there's an epilepsy warning. There's,
It's very conscientious.
thank you for that. Yeah, no, in the terms of my eyes. Thank you. That's pretty much what my reaction would be.
so it's 99 cents. You should totally all go get it. And by
No.
that I mean probably not. I haven't played it.
No.
It looks terrible.
Here's a
I don't
game we
even-
just launched in chat. None of us have played it, but who knows? It sounded fun.
It's a thing though. I just wanted you to be aware it's a thing.
Okay, it's a thing. Okay.
It's
Well-
a shower with your dad's simulator.
If we what was the name of the one where you date your weapons? The
boyfriend dungeon, I think.
boyfriend
I think
dungeon.
Nathan just
have
wants
to-
to not look at this thing I just posted.
Yeah, I'm just like, can I put anything else up so that it just moves it up in the chat? Because I'd really love that.
Let me.
So,
Yeah, so if you can find a link.
Just for reference, anyone who wants to buy Nathan this game
No,
on Steam,
no, that's okay.
we will force him to play it on his attempting to play.
Oh god.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So it's
best
99
episode ever.
cents. Just saying, $1.
Best.
Get Nathan's Steam name, buy him the game. We'll make him play it for you.
Best episode ever. Thanks for that. Oh,
Hey, anyone who decides they want to buy you a game for you to play, I think you have to play.
I think I am required by law to play any game that people actually purchase for me as a gift.
I like the release date on that. It says when weapons are beautiful enough.
It's very honest.
It is. It is. You need to have
What
really
if I'm not
attractive weapons.
beholden to their weapon beauty standards?
Well, weapon beauty standards are very. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm not too proud to admit that I really don't know where I was going with that.
It's okay. It's okay.
I
I want a weapon with a sassy personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be that would
Every
be
time I
fun.
stab someone with it, it's like you've been stabbed, bitch. It'll be like I'm an independent greatsword. I don't need no man.
you
Yeah, I'm a
I
plus
want-
2 dancing greatsword.
you could have
So
like
it
a
knows how to dance. You can dance with it.
you could have a dagger that just got out of prison, and he's yeah, it's just that kind of whole thing, and just shank him one more time. I can't go back in. I can't do
No,
it.
its personality would be Roberto from Futurama.
Man. Yeah, no, there's a
gonna
lot of things you could
I'm gonna stab him.
potentially do. I don't know if those are options in being a Steam game, but hey,
You
to
you
each
gotta
his
apply
own.
your own love to it,
Sure can. Um,
especially if you're gonna be dating it, Nathan.
Anywho, I feel like we've moved well off the original topic, so
We
it's
never stick to topics, Nathan. This is why we edit our show.
This is this is, but I did say we would try to actually tackle certain topics tonight.
I mean, we can tackle stuff and get off topic.
Yeah, but I'm looking at time. That's I knew that there were a few
We'll
things
stop doing that.
I should stop doing that. However, unless anyone has another thought on current topic, I will go on to the other thing.
Which other thing?
Who the hell knows? No, the one you actually wanted to do first, but I wanted to wait till you were actually here.
I was
discuss it.
napping, and no one ever messaged me beforehand, Nathan.
I had mentioned everybody. I thought that you were part of everyone.
No, I have.
Oh, you have your
those
notifications
suppressed.
Okay.
For most channels.
Okay.
Because I'm typically sleeping when people are awake.
Yeah, I figured that. I figured that. I guess I assumed that you would be around come 9 o'clock, but I never should assume that, should I? I should just message you directly in case.
Boyfriend dungeon. What is this?
Yeah.
The best game ever.
Why were we talking about it?
Well, because you get to level up your weapons because you're dating them.
Oh.
So
that is weird.
Yeah. You dig into it. Tell me what you think, James. Hey, there's a game you could play. For channel.
Look, here's. Oh.
The release date
not
is
all
when
the weapons.
Yeah.
Are all the weapons dudes?
Oh no.
No. Good.
You got a mix.
You know, I'm not a dude. I am a dude. Excuse me. I am a dude, and I don't like dudes. So.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
One
of the things that really I am not generally a visual novel / dating sim person. It's just not a genre that gets to me. But one of the things that attracted me about this one and then Arcade Spirits is that the developers are like, well, it's not just romance. There's regular friendship relationships. There's all across the gender spectrum. It's who are you? You will have someone to interact with, whoever you are, and that's
awesome.
Amazing. I think because we need that because that's how the world is. So
no, the world is just Monica.
That is.
See, the reason why I didn't like that game was because from the beginning, I wanted Monica. I didn't care about the other three. They annoyed the hell out of me. So when the game eventually
you got what you wanted,
when the game gets to the point where you're just alone with Monica, I know that the game wants me to move past that and figure out a way to defeat Monica. Except I was like, but I finally got everything I was looking for. Sorry, game. You did a bad job.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You got everything you were looking for and a few dead girlfriends.
It's really not that different from Undertale, where instead of getting stronger through fighting, you get stronger through making friends.
Or kill
Same
everybody.
idea. I mean, you can do either one. But
yeah, you have the options. I did not have an option with Doki Doki Literature Club. They just told me what to do. And I did it.
The game is creepy as frick. So
it was fine. It was not my cup of tea.
It was forced upon you.
It was forced. Yeah, it definitely was. And hey, another plug. We have a whole supercut of that on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch the way edited down version of what it was like seeing me play that.
Speaking of YouTube channels,
Oh
Nathan.
yeah, let's actually talk about that. So
Great segue.
so the thing that we were going to talk about first, but now we have more people here, so it's probably.
But
a
now
good
you
thing.
have me here, who I wanted to bring it up. So.
I know, and it's, you know what? It is a rare occasion when you actually want to bring up something I did. So
I try to ignore your existence most of the time.
I'm aware. Yeah, that seems to be pretty much the whole premise of the show. But you know, the thing about it is, so I posted a video yesterday. In case anyone didn't see it.
I didn't. I've seen it, but I haven't watched it.
Okay, that's fine. Well, now you get to be here listening to the chat, so you get to be either bemused or completely confused as to what we're going to
Oh
discuss.
yeah.
So raise your hand if you watched it.
I'm not on camera.
How do you?
Yeah, that's fine.
do
That's the point.
hand raise? Is there an emoji for raising hands?
There is.
Oh, okay.
Also, speaking of YouTube,
Oh God, YouTube.
There's not one on here though. Is that?
Is there
Night
none?
Shell?
There. Yeah. If you watch the video, congratulations, you watched the video.
It's Praise It. It's
Oh,
Lord
thank
Helix.
you, DC. Yep, that works.
Yeah, DC
Mhm.
posted it in the chat earlier.
Mhm.
Our chat.
Okay.
In general.
Oh,
and
and-
hashtag shameless plugs if anyone wants to check it out. That's my YouTube channel there.
Did you play
James the
DelveCast?
Oh, goodness, no.
Oh, that's a shame.
A little bit more child friendly than that. Not much, but slightly more.
Well, you know. Hey, there's a lot of emojis for putting your hands. Okay, so anyway, I'll put my hand up. I indeed did watch my own video several times because I wanted to make sure it was right. So, James, since you're the one who has not seen the video, basically it was called Tomb Raider Trilogies and Psychology, and what I was basically talking about was the most recent Survivor series, since it just wrapped up with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and how I was kind of looking at it really before Shadow even came out, just kind of getting an idea of what the storyline was, about how that trilogy was a good example of how trilogies can represent psychology. And most specifically, kind of like the Freudian model of the id, the ego, and the superego, and how they can get explored. How the first chapter kind of explores the id, the second one the ego, and the third one the superego. And I tried to kind of define it into better terms just for people, into the ideas of survival, identity, and to duty, and how those actually manifest as sort of like a larger character arc. And so seeing that in that Survivor series, I felt like Lara Croft kind of goes through those steps. You see that first part where she's trying to survive on an island. And so everything is about learning how to survive, learning how to hunt, learning how to find shelter, and to make fires, and defend herself against people who are bad. And then the second part being about identity, so it's and literally starts off with her following her father's work, her father's unfinished work, trying to find the lost city of Katesh, and more importantly, kind of her family's history, their lineage with Trinity, I should say, and kind of makes decisions about what she wants to do with the rest of her life. And then in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, where she's basically like, she's the Terminator, basically at the beginning of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it becomes pretty obvious that there's not a lot that can touch her. But she basically starts that game off by kicking off the apocalypse, and then spends the rest of the game sort of trying to undo that and try to make things right. And eventually gets to the point where she has like the power of like a literal god toward the end, and gives it up because she knows it's the right thing to do. And so morality. And so yeah,
Morality.
How dare we? So looking at it in that light, I also gave a few other examples of some other trilogies and how you could apply it in a similar way. And it doesn't work for every trilogy, but when you start looking for it, it's hard not to look for correlations in it. So once I started looking at it, I was like, I really want to do a video where I explore that and kind of explain it in more depth. And so that's what that much longer video than my usual videos it is about. So
That sounds really interesting.
well, I really hoped it was. I hoped somebody found it.
So what do all you that actually saw it think of it?
Yes.
I got really quiet really fast.
Oh.
Okay, so Sumi, I can't see everybody, so I have to go by audio cues for when it's okay to talk.
Go. I am going to give the talking stick to Steve. Steve, there you go with the talking stick. Here, Steve has the talking stick. There, it's in chat. Everyone knows. Enjoy.
Thank you very much for being wonderful sports about my snark. I do apologize.
No, it was a fine snark to respond to my snark. So
I was actually I watched it earlier today, and it spurred a lot of thoughts, and the thoughts weren't just about the psychological framework that you put into it, but also about just the concept of threes, the 3-act structure in plays, the 3 parts of a journey. Because if you break down the Campbellian monomyth even further, there are 3 parts of the journey. There is the departure, the watershed, and the return, or the departure, the watershed, and the arrival, if you're not making a full circle. And threes are really pervasive, and I think you're onto something. It doesn't map for everything.
No.
But there's a lot of patterns that it fits into.
Right, and for all we know, the reason why Freud organized it in threes was for that same reason, that there seems to be a certain organizational pattern.
threes are holy numbers in most religions and cultures, right?
That's
part of it.
Yeah. Three's a big deal for a lot.
And that's also a chicken and egg. Are threes everywhere because they're holy numbers, or holy numbers because they're everywhere, or is it both?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. It's because it's one of those 3 things. Oh God, that's a 3 again. No.
See?
it's this or that or both. Those are 3 options.
Why not both?
Why not all 3? Hello,
Why not
John
everything?
Paul.
Hello.
Paul's back. How many times did you die in the meantime?
I have not died in the meantime because I have not been playing Dark Souls in the meantime.
I assumed he took a break when he wasn't on here, honestly.
Yeah.
That is entirely true because I was doing other shit.
Fair enough. Yeah. No. 3.
I like how he's just so brutally honest about it.
He's
I
drunk.
like
it's
that
fine.
in a person.
I'm drunk.
Even
I
if-
cannot be anything but brutal.
Exactly.
Brutal.
Honest.
Oh God!
Oh God.
Oh, the dying is
Stop
begun again.
stabbing me, you priests!
Talk about being
that
pervasive in
needs some
religion.
Phrasing right
Talk
there.
about being
Oh, I
pervasive
died
in
again.
religion.
He
You-
comes back and dies within 2 minutes.
You die 3 times, and that's
more like 20 seconds, but yes.
I was giving
He's
you a
playing
little bit of
Dark
leeway.
Souls. Is really anyone surprised?
yeah.
No,
You're gonna die
No,
3
yes,
times, and you're playing Dark Souls 3.
you're not allowed to relinquish the talking stick.
Oh, he's right. He is playing Dark Souls
Yeah,
3.
he is.
This is true.
He's playing a part of a trilogy.
I've never played Dark
Oh.
Souls 2.
Yeah,
Well,
he's playing
sort of.
a part of a trilogy. Yeah.
So,
Although-
no, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 are actually a legitimate trilogy, regardless of what your opinion on 2 or whatever is.
Oh, I was thinking of Bloodborne.
Yeah, that's
Bloodborne is technically not part of the series because it doesn't have any legitimate lore connections and has very different mechanics on the basis of how you're supposed to play.
It's
And
part
while
of the overall genre, but not the Dark Souls series.
Yes,
Got you.
but it's why we don't consider Battlefield and Call of Duty the same game. They're the
I
same
don't consider them
genre.
games.
Now that's another can of worms.
yeah, there's another
mean,
can of worms.
I don't
though.
consider them good games, at least. If that
I
counts.
mean, to each their own. I
Yeah,
accept this.
yeah.
I very much appreciate the Battlefield series, but
I was more talking about Call of Duty, but
Call of Duty is it's a franchise, maybe not necessarily a set of games at this point, but yeah.
Well, yeah. The first Call of Duty was actually pretty good, and then they changed a lot of it. But if you go back and play the original Call of Duty, being used to more modern
yeah,
Call of
those are good.
Duties,
Those are
man,
good
you're
and
getting
fun.
you're in for a surprise.
Who is fighting me?
Yeah, you're in for the hell that is having to duck behind literally everything because the second you poke your head out, Nazi snipers are going to have you down for the count, and there's no regenerating health. So
I
you
mean,
enjoy original
that's
Call
That's
of
just
Duty.
like real life, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
no, and
It's
they
real life World War II.
they made it so that it would feel more like a realistic depiction of World War II. There were no like contextual button presses or anything. No, it was just a really
Oh, there it goes.
So
Hello,
I
everybody.
can't press F to
Hello.
pay respects.
No, you cannot.
Came
No,
back.
you
It
cannot.
came back.
You cannot pay F to pay respects. Although
I
that
can
would
do
be
whatever
nice.
I want.
Yeah, if
But
you
we were
stop.
talking about your video that you did, Nathan.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
And I actually watched it because usually I don't watch your attempting to plays.
No, you don't. Which is why when you were saying, "Hey, I saw this video, and it was good," I was like, "Oh,
Well, the thing about that is I don't usually like watching other people play games.
right."
So
Right.
your attempting to plays don't do anything for me in that sense because I don't really care for that.
Right.
But this one was like, oh, it's something different. I'll see what he did. And I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. Other than using Freudian psychology, it was really interesting.
To be fair, if you're using Freudian psychology, you've already lost.
Yeah. I mean, we're all aware that Freudian psychology was pretty much debunked decades ago.
Yes, it's
Except
been
that-
debunked for ages, and nobody actually appreciates it. And fuck these slimes.
Unlike the
That's
slimes, Freudian psychology was valuable because it gave us a unified terminology to build from. And even though we've moved well beyond the terminology, it served a very valuable purpose in getting people on the same
Yes.
page.
Yes.
It was ow, I died. It was a good basis, and I think that's the where Freud's legacy should stand. Is he was a good starting point, a good basis of where we needed to move from, but not someone we should accept as canon or not canon. That's not the word. Someone who we should expect
Final
as
authority.
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose that's probably a good way to put it.
yeah.
Best one I can come up with.
I thought it was interesting that you tied the Freud's levels of consciousness or levels of consciousness. I thought it was interesting that you tied that to the growth of the character and the growth of the trilogy at the same time, not just
Yeah.
not just like coexisting states, but like something you grow from impulse through consciousness to full awareness, basically.
Right, and I kind of felt like, obviously we're talking about characters that are fully formed, so they have all of these aspects already, but it was about, like, what was being focused on in each part, and that, like, the focus of them seems to be about that growth, about, like, that very basic, I need to survive, I need to make sure that I can live, to the, I need to determine who I am, to the I need to determine how I interact in this world in a satisfactory way for not myself but also for others. Like, what do I do for other people as well? And when you start looking at it in those terms, and that's also the reason why I kind of transform those three ideas into like an actual concept, is to kind of make those actually subject matters that are being looked at, and so
It
that's
is
the
fun.
reason why I did that. But
I do think it translates well into this sort of the game, regardless of how much they do intentionally, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's really up to your interpretation. The amount of actual playing with the source material into a don't hit me into a sort of character development as a story motive is fun, something that should be explored more.
Right, right. Yeah, it was just one of those things I never really see explored in that way, and knowing kind of the general framework of those ideas, those concepts, and seeing how they seem to get explored, was something that's like, it's I just see it all the time, and it feels like no one really talked about it before, and it was something worth doing a video on and finding a good analog for that. And so seeing how those character beats go in that particular series seemed to work pretty well, and that's also why I reinforced it with some video clips and some quotes from people that worked on it that kind of also explore that a little bit better.
There's another trilogy that it's more tightly plotted because the games pick up right where the previous game leaves off, unlike the Survivor series.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've played through the Banner Saga series.
I started playing the first one, but that's about it.
Excellent stories, painful stories, but excellent story. But it's if we're looking at like the growth, Banner Saga has a similar growth and at the same time descent arc to the Survivor series,
Mm-hmm.
where you start off and you have no idea what you're getting into, and it's the instinct, it's the another death.
Make a note for the record books.
So it's it's the instinct, it's the will I have enough food to get my caravan to the next plot point, it's the will I lose a character because of my decisions, and you don't know what's even going on in the world. You just know we're on the run from these enemies, and then it moves through from id / survival, it moves through the ego / awareness, and finally to super ego / apotheosis at the end, where it comes down to a very similar decision. It's not an internal to one person decision. It's kind of the player avatar is a very fluid thing, and sometimes tied to a character and sometimes not. It's very interestingly presented, and I love it dearly. But it's you, the player, guiding the characters, plural, to make a choice at the very end, and it's a very similar apotheosis choice, and it's kind of inverted though, because where Lara is basically going up, the Banner Saga is kind of descending,
Yeah.
figuratively and then literally, to desperation, but still showing the same structure and growth.
Right, right. And it's also the reason why I mentioned Planet of the Apes in that, because if you look at that, the reason why I love that particular trilogy, well, one, it's just really well done, but it's also, the apes kind of go through that evolution where they're just trying to get free, and then Caesar's trying to define like his society and the relationship to humans, and then eventually he has to make a call for the good of his people. But the reason why I really loved it was for the reason I mentioned in the video, that humans are going in the opposite direction. The humans start off talking about morality and should we do animal testing? Should we rush drugs to the market? And then they get on to the next part where they're like, well, we live in a world with apes now. What are we? And at the end where they're almost dead. And yeah, they almost died again. You're right, Paul. The last humans are basically just trying to hold out and lashing out in desperation because they're almost gone, and they know that their time is limited. And so they've gone into survival mode.
An interesting balance of, do we evolve, do we change, or do we just accept that we have lost evolution?
Yeah, it's sort of interesting because if you look at those kinds of story beats and you see what direction they're kind of headed in, you can almost tell if you see something going up, like you see a character or a society going on a rise, or if you see them going on a decline. When you start to see trilogies like that. So I was thinking about other trilogies I could have used for examples, but I was like, yeah, I think I'll just list a few because I don't want to get too into the weeds with other things.
And I do like the choice of comparison between a series where the the opposition to continual evolution is humans. Humans are not the ones continually evolving. It's the not humans that are evolving.
Right. Right. Well, that's also the fascinating thing about it is that the humans are sort of you're watching the decline of human civilization in those movies while something else is rising up. And how do we actually deal with it is very interesting. It was for me, at least. I always liked that trilogy. I thought that in terms of just the overall quality and world building that they did in between like Rise, Dawn, and War, it's one of the best trilogies I've ever seen. For the fact that they did a really smart job and the characters made sensible decisions that I understood and I could follow from the first movie all the way to the third. So good job, people. At least
Well, that's a really strong recommendation for me to watch it.
Oh, they're good movies. They're very good.
Are we gonna
movies.
move into film review now, Nathan?
Well, the thing about it is
I
that
mean,
it's
you
hard not to.
could. I don't think all your audience would oppose it, but oh god, ow, that's painful.
Ding!
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I was a bit too on the nose on that comment,
Yeah.
and I died.
But
Fuck.
when it's hard not to talk about trilogies if you don't mention movies because a lot of trilogies are movies. So
or books. Like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a fantastic 5-part trilogy.
I don't think that's how trilogy. Anyway,
Have you?
Are you talking about the movie itself, or
No, God no. Who talks about the movie? Nobody talks about the movie.
It's a
I'm in the
five-
book.
enough
part-
people
I
talk
liked
about the
the
movie that they
movie.
overestimate the value of the number 42, and I'm sitting here
Um,
going, my first interpretation is someone picked a number, and then my last interpretation is, well, the author said it's just a number, and honestly, I can't agree more.
Well,
Not to get off topic here.
Speaking about
but,
absurdism earlier, but
When did we
that
ever-
that number is 42 is very symbolic.
That's neat.
7 is like the number of perfection, and 6 is the number of imperfection, so to speak.
mhm.
So if you
I-
have a 7 times a 6,
I don't need more biblical references in my shit.
not biblical. There's nothing about this in the.
I mean, it doesn't
No.
need to be. It's enough to me.
I mean, it's also incorrect because the book goes out of its way to make sure you know it's not 7 times 2.
All right, I'll accept that.
wait, it's not?
Yeah, no. The actual question. Yeah, thank you, Ikoma. What do you get when you multiply 6 by 9?
Oh.
Wait,
the
wait,
answer
wait,
is
wait.
42.
That-
No, wait. No, you get 54.
Yeah, no.
Exactly.
The answer is 42.
It's
And the
like what
quote
9
that-
plus
because-
10 is.
because
And the quote that Arthur says, if Steve is gonna say it, he can.
I wasn't going to go with the quote. You get the quote. I don't remember. The
Oh, okay. The quote that Arthur says after he figures that out, he goes, "What do you get when you multiply 6 by 9? 42." He goes, "Huh. I always knew there was something fundamentally wrong with the universe."
Because the thing about Hitchhiker's Guide is Douglas, just like Dirk Gently, Douglas Adams was writing absurdist fiction.
Mm.
And
It's
I
very good
absolutely love
absurdist
it.
fiction, but it's
Yeah, I
absurdist.
love it. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. That's why I like 42. Is not because people are like, "Oh, it's the answer." I'm like, yeah, it's the answer, but do you know the question?
I did like that. It was the entire 42 is there. The answer. Here's your answer. What's the question? Ah, shit.
Well, they spent more time figuring out the answer than the question than they
Because
did the answer.
they put
Isn't the question what is the meaning of life?
No, the question
No.
is, what do you get when you multiply 6 by 9?
the question becomes the question given was what is the answer to the most important question of the universe, but they never asked what the original question was because it took the entire time to find the answer. It never took up the question, and it's because they're all idiots and everyone's an idiot for trying to figure out what the answer is before the question. That's the only means to it. It's you should figure out what your question is before you try to find an answer.
It doesn't work so well because then you don't know what you're actually looking at. It's
Any
fun.
software engineer can tell you if I'm trying to find an answer before I have a question, I don't know what the fuck I'm searching for, and I'm wasting money.
It feels so Matrix-y. all of a
It's the-
sudden.
It's way before
Like-
the Matrix. It's great.
Neo was number
Oh, but
42.
yeah,
Oh God, please don't hurt me.
And as I said,
There were 42
they-
ancient
It is
Smiths.
self-described. It is self-described as a 5-part trilogy
Okay.
because there are 5 books in the series.
The increasingly inaccurately named Hitchhiker's Guide trilogy, I think, was one
Of
of
course,
the titles.
there's also a 6th book that was not done by Douglas Adams. Did you
So,
read that
is it
one?
actually
Steve?
there?
The 5-part trilogy plus one that's just only one movie.
I'm
Uh,
pretty sure I have, but I've read a lot of books, so many of them do blend together.
it was called And Another Thing.
That's a perfect.
And
name.
now for something completely different.
It was done by a different author because it was after Douglas Adams had passed away. It was someone who tried to like tie the entire series together at the end, I guess.
So they were completely wrong, and it was great.
It was terrible, and it was terrible. It was written in the voice of Douglas Adams, kind of like it was very reminiscent of Douglas Adams, but the story that was told was complete garbage.
Oh
And
God, that's not
it
supposed to
was-
be a mega.
It was like what? So basically, the entire story had to deal with Thor.
Oh,
I'm
best
okay with this
Avenger.
already.
Did he
No.
did he have the Stormbreaker hammer?
No, this is before the Avengers. This is why.
Oh.
So the entire book had to deal with Thor.
God, I got kicked by a chest.
Mimics
You
are
got
bitch.
kicked in the chest or kicked by okay.
Yeah, mimics are a bitch.
I got kicked
Um,
in the chest by a
And
chest.
so, and another thing followed like the story of Thor, but also the rest of the group from the books, except for
Okay.
Marvin because he's already gone at that point.
Yeah.
And like Zaphod is being like his manager
Great.
or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, hold on, you wrote an entire book that deals with Thor, where Thor had a very minor role in one of the books because he was trying to hit on Trillion. What?
Hmm.
Sounds
So
about right.
basically, what we got was fanfic.
Yeah, bad fanfic. Like all fanfic is pretty much bad, but this is really bad
Some
because it was
fanfic
published.
is acceptable, at best.
Like 50 Shades.
Yeah,
No,
there's
that's not
that.
acceptable. That's a disgrace to anyone who can read.
It's also fanfic.
It is.
That doesn't mean it's not like this something we should burn on site. It just means it's fanfic. Honestly, 50 Shades of Grey is a disgrace to fanfic, and that's something to say.
Honestly, I haven't read it, but it's probably better than some out there.
Hey, that was a
It's-
trilogy.
I was about to say it is a trilogy.
That's not a high. We're not looking at a high bar here.
No.
apparently.
No, we're not. Fanfic
I-
is terrible.
I don't think it follows the model I laid out either.
You know, it might. Have you read it? You should go read it. to
I
find
haven't
out.
read it. I haven't watched it. But everything that I've heard was pretty much about like how the characters don't really do much in the way of growth through those books.
I mean, they're not really about growth.
The characters
Nathan.
make terrible decisions, and that's pretty much the plot.
That's perfect.
I mean, if I wanted to make terrible decisions, I would go read 50 Shades of Grey.
Exactly.
Yes, by
instead of reading it, they enact it. That's how bad of a decision
Yes.
they made.
by actually reading 50 Shades of Grey, you become 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, jeez. I'm
So
not sure
the-
what that even means.
Yeah, you.
I'm dizzy enough already.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, man. But it was fanfic of Twilight, right? Also a great
Yes.
example of literature.
Yeah.
It's hey.
Oh
don't
God, I
think-
forgot. It was a fanfic of Twilight, not just Twilight itself.
Yeah,
it was a
no,
fan
that's
fiction
that. No, that was
of
a fanfic.
Twilight, and
Yeah.
that's why it's so terrible.
Yeah, probably. I did like though they
Typically a fetish of being abused, apparently.
apparently
Yeah.
Anyways, this
The-
is going off topic as well as I can.
the only
God, stop shooting me!
the only thing I will say, having not read any of the books and having absolutely no desire to ever do so, I was watching a video
Guardians.
from Lindsay Ellis where she was like just apologizing to Stephanie Myers for making fun of Twilight so much, and she was saying because if you think about it, Stephanie Meyers had the option, like when 50 Shades came out, to make a big stink that like they were gonna start making money off of a fanfic of her work. And that could have been a legal case she probably could have won. And she decided to just be cool with it. And if she hadn't been cool with it, it would have pretty much stopped any kind of fan fiction writing dead in its tracks. You would not see anyone
probably
try to
not.
It wouldn't have stopped
Copyright.
fan fiction, but it would have stopped fan fiction from being
published.
like something you could make as a profit. Like,
Right.
Specifically,
Yeah.
fan fiction couldn't become something you do for a living, or
Right.
like something you could do for, like no one could pay you for fan fiction, essentially.
Exactly.
Honestly, I don't think that it would have gone through because I don't think that you would have had enough copyright claims to block it.
Except I think the original version of 50 Shades was actually supposed to have Edward and Bella in it.
As I understand it, the original version was literally like fanfic, and the published version was several times refined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
So,
took
it
out
was-
all the things to make it look like Twilight. So
Yeah, and they changed the names.
Don't hug me! Don't hug me! Oh God!
don't hug me, I'm
Yeah,
scared.
no, that was pretty much all of 50 Shades apparently.
I think we can safely agree.
You know, it's
I mean,
amazing. That's the next video I got to do, Alex, is the correlation between Dark Souls and 50 Shades of Grey. And what I'll do is I'll mash up each one
Well,
of the
actually,
books
Walk
with
into every situation. Listen, if you want to correlate 50 Shades of Grey and Dark Souls, just walk into every single bit of mistakes you can.
Yeah.
Hey, that chest looks like it's breathing. Well, I'm gonna open it anyway. Hey, that person's literally on fire and saying you're a sinner. Well, clearly they still want a hug.
See,
Hey,
the difference.
that individual literally just said, I don't like any humanity, and I think humanity itself is a sin. Well, clearly I'm going to let them run rampant. What could possibly go wrong?
The difference
Ow.
is one of the two franchises knows what informed sober consent is, and it ain't 50 Shades of Grey.
The fact that Dark Souls knows consent better than 50 Shades of Grey is a wonderful commentary, and I don't know what it means.
Hey, you could put down the quest at any time in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
You're choosing to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Dark Souls. Oh
Yes.
God! Stop stabbing me, you filthy thief!
That sounded like abuse too.
To be fair,
It's-
most of Dark Souls is you know what you're getting into, but the
That's
difference
true.
is you accept this.
See, yeah, Dark Souls is
3 at least. Dark
Dark
Souls
Souls
3
is-
people are like, no, I know what I'm getting into.
and even on a gameplay level, Dark Souls 3 is consensual. The demons consent to try to stab you, and you consent to stabbing them right back. It's a
Higher
mutual
plan.
relationship.
Most video game relationships are typically consensual as long as it's PvE. PvP isn't always, but if you're playing a PvP game, then I guess.
I try to avoid PvP games as much as I possibly can.
It's like in Elite Dangerous, people like complaining about getting killed. I'm like, well, if you don't want to be killed, don't play it open.
Yeah.
You have an option to play solo. You have an option to play online with other people. The risk of playing online with other people is some people play as pirates.
Right.
Some people just want to kill you.
Yeah.
So if you don't want that,
Who did that?
It was
Sorry.
it was my
it was
least
me, Mario.
It was my least favorite
Fuck off,
part of
Mario. I
Diablo
don't want
2.
any of your bullshit.
What about Diablo 2?
It was my least favorite part of Diablo 2 is when somebody who just wanted to go around and, kill characters, the PKs.
I mean,
player
don't play
care.
on Battle.net then.
I know, but I wanted to play with my friends. But then, other people were there. so...
I want to play with my friends, but there's other assholes here. What do I do?
Well,
don't play with other assholes.
Well, because
Private servers.
it was
And
this
by private servers, I think
I know there's something in here I'm gonna run.
it was this thing where I wanted to be able to play with my friends, and I wanted to be able to be leveled up, and I wanted my character to have gotten
Oh
ahead.
God, you're creepy. Fuck off.
But
Hear that, Nathan? You're creepy. Fuck off.
no, that's accurate. But the thing about it is, I wanted to be all leveled up, But the problem I had was they weren't always on when I was on, so I would have to just play online when they weren't there, and you'd just get into sessions where there were just a few jerks.
I mean, to be fair, Diablo 2 online play was 99% hackers.
Yeah, it was.
As long as you're playing an open BattleNet.
Yeah, I wasn't. I did try it once or twice, and I was like, oh my god, everyone's fully leveled up with full gear. But then I played I didn't play Open Battle.net. I played like the
Open
regular
Battle.net was just people using the mods and the hacks they could do to make any items they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And customize the items any way they wanted. I had fun with that.
Yeah, I get that.
It was fun.
And that brings us back to the earlier concept of play
Trilogies.
the game in the way that gives you enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Diablo 2 is the middle chapter of a trilogy, wasn't it?
It was a middle chapter of a trilogy. I don't know if it really falls into the model that I had laid out in the video. It really doesn't. No, it's pretty much like in each chapter, it's basically there's a hero and Diablo's back, and you got to deal with it.
The story behind it might.
Yeah.
But I don't think it does. I think that's more the hero's journey.
Yeah, I think that those are supposed to be like each chapter is kind of encapsulated with whatever your player character is. It's just sort of like the going out on your own. Yeah, those would be much more. The individual chapters are much more of like that hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell sort of model.
And not necessarily for the heroes, for like the people that are in the story that aren't the hero.
Yeah, because your hero character is just kind of there to do the legwork.
I assume it's all Tyrael's story at this point.
Is it Tyrael's story or is it
Deckard's?
Yeah. I feel like Deckard's probably like a.
Deckard's dead.
Well, I know Deckard's dead, which is but he died in the third part, and he did die
at the
trying to help people. Well, what do you mean he died at the beginning of the third game?
Yeah. He died in Act 1.
Yeah. But still, it's not like the world.
I haven't played 3, so I don't know. But
Deckard Cain dies.
Sorry, spoilers.
Spoiler.
I'm spoiled on a 10-year-old game.
I never meant to read that, but I'm upset.
Hot take. I find that a lot of times, unless the experience is really the most important part, spoilers actually make me appreciate the work more in most cases. So
I don't typically mind spoiler alerts unless it's like a big reveal surprise. Like I can't tell you about this, but it's so important.
Yeah,
the twist is part of the experience. And if it's not. Well, I don't care.
Yeah, it's like I would have probably been upset if they like spoiled Sixth Sense for me, but I do not care. Like I've already seen spoilers for like Solo because like whenever I see that, it's like all right, I kind of know what happens, but whatever. Yeah, I don't.
Well, and
really
Sixth Sense.
It's not
Sixth Sense being like the iconic Shyamalan film to spoil, I enjoyed it. I didn't really like it the first time through.
But the second
when
time
I realized what the twist,
Yeah.
the second time, so it's like I actually feel that if I had been spoiled, hey, watch the Bruce Willis character, see if you can figure out what's up with the Bruce Willis character.
Yeah.
The filmmaking that went into making sure that like nobody interacted with him at all except the boy,
and you realize it works. It works perfectly.
And that's why the twist worked. But so. That's like right on the brink of do I take the spoiler or do I not take the spoiler? Right. And there's a difference between spoilers and teasers, and it's a thorny subject there. But you don't want to give everything away in the trailer, otherwise why see the movie type of thing.
Yeah, they've been not great at that lately. Like I've heard so many reviews where it's like I have nothing to spoil. They showed you everything in the trailer. That's been a lot of new movies. It's like, well, okay, you just kind of like showed me everything that I would spoil in a trailer that people already saw. So I have nothing to spoil, really. I've seen movie reviews that are like that, and I kind of get that sentiment. But
I found those every once in a while. It's like, well, no, that's not quite true.
Yeah, I'm sure
Hollywood is bad at that. They're bad at most things.
I would just really appreciate it if they did more trailers that were just like Deadpool, where Deadpool like literally just did a trailer that didn't necessarily have almost anything of the movie itself, and it was it just gave you an
game
idea.
Trailers,
yeah,
game trailers are notoriously bad.
yeah, and
But
they don't have to be.
that's the thing. Game trailers are, very obscure. You don't know what you're gonna get, but at the same time, that's kind of part of the fun of a game. Is, oh, I'm gonna go discover and have fun. Where the movies go,
Yes.
sometimes a movie goes, I'm not gonna. Where you could go, like M. Night Shyamalan spoiler trailer, where you completely give away the twist the whole way through, or you could go Bridge to Terabithia, where, hey, this is a fun kids movie. Psych, half the movie is about dealing with trauma and the loss of a close friend. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's it has become a little bit deflating, where they're like, oh, you can't wait to see what's happening, and it's like,
How come we don't have trailers for tabletop games?
We used to.
Did we?
Yeah.
Really?
I was there when D&D was advertising on TV.
Ooh.
I was
Fair
not.
enough. Fair enough.
Well, the thing
I
about...
know Games Workshop occasionally does trailer type videos occasionally online on like YouTube for like upcoming models and things. They'll be like, here's a reveal of what's coming up, and they'll do like panning shots and weird camera stuff. And...
Food for thought. The greater tabletop and particularly indie video game and board game hobby is a really interesting hobby, because we put out tons of quality stuff. We are living in an era where there are more games of all stripes available than ever before, including games from previous eras in the 50 years of the total aggregate hobby.
That again.
And yet we're advertising only to people who are already in the hobby. The way you get into the hobby is by seeing someone else play, or being pulled in by a friend who's like, I want to play this game.
Yeah.
There's no outreach to people who aren't already in the hobby.
I would never have gotten into D&D if it wasn't for someone going, hey, you seem nerdy enough. Do you want to try this activity?
Let me introduce you to the world of Dungeons and Dragons, friend.
I got introduced with Pathfinder, and that was a mistake, but...
Pathfinder is a perfectly solid game for people who like that particular kind of gameplay, and it is not my style, but it's a very valid, crunchy game.
I mean, that's 3.5, so...
It's 3.7, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's 3.75, but...
And it's just like D&D 4. I love D&D 4. It was not the kind of D&D that I had come through 2nd and 3rd edition to, but it was a very tight game. There's all sorts of games for all sorts of different people, and just like Tanamori says, Pathfinder, it's D&D.
It is D&D because it's the exactly 3.5 open gaming license that lets it run.
But it's like right now, the thing that is getting most outsiders into the tabletop side of the gaming hobby is it's not really your friendly local game stores. People walk by those all the time. It's not TV, although Big Bang Theory, for all of its many faults, in my opinion, has brought the existence of these games to a wider audience. It's Twitch streams. It's social media. It's people just being people and playing games in front of others.
Yeah, and then YouTube stuff. I know tabletop, while it was still running, was really good because it was, nerds on TV, famous nerds on TV, and people were like, this person plays games? Holy shit. Like, I want to play these games.
Yeah, and it's really the interesting thing, though, is that all of this, the hobby as a whole, but I say the hobby like there's some great conspiracy. There's no great conspiracy. The book is literally being made up as we go along. Nobody knows how any of this works. There's all sorts of conflicting models, but the hobby is benefiting from the participants and the consumers. The people at the top, wizards, they advertise in their own publications, and that's about it. When was the last time you saw a Magic the Gathering ad for anything other than the digital one, usually on Twitch?
Right.
And yet there's a new expansion every 3 months.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's like clockwork.
They because they're advertising to the audience they already have, and that's it. D&D, same thing. Shadowrun, Catalyst hasn't updated their website since 2014, I think.
Oh wow.
And yet they're still publishing Shadowrun books. I missed most of the 5th edition for a while because they wouldn't say anything about it on their own website.
God.
That's how bad the advertising is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of advertisements going on for this stuff.
No.
Speaking about websites that haven't been updated since 2014, can we talk about how terrible BoardGameGeek is?
can.
I mean, I
I'm
suppose
not qualified.
you could. I don't
Have you
really
ever
know.
been to their website?
I'll talk about it anyways because you can't stop me.
Have any of you ever been to the BoardGameGeek website?
No.
You mean the
Oh boy.
the posting site that still looks
Oh
like
boy.
a
Oh
posting
boy.
site? Yeah.
Hold on, my friends. Hold
It
on.
needs a
You're gonna
new
get a
code
link
of
to a website, and you can look at it, and then we can all sigh about it heavily.
I can because as someone who has to build websites every once in a while, like I have to build my company's website every once in a while. Like,
Oh,
just
sorry. I
fix
linked
it.
you to. I linked our
Oh, God.
Geek.
Oh god,
BoardGameGeek.
6 of you are not appropriate here. Leave.
Either one of those. They look almost exactly the same. Because they're basically the same site, but oh boy.
Ah!
Oh.
Ah!
Gaming Unplugged since 2000. And probably that's when they last updated
That
the interface. Yeah, no, I've seen BoardGameGeek on many occasions, so I don't really. I'm looking at it right now though, just as a reference. But yeah, no, it's like a GeoCities page. I know
It's
terrible.
terrible.
It's not great, and I don't know why.
Ooh, the fact that while it was loading, I saw eBay as the main link. I'm a little upset.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. It's actually surprising that they haven't had like much competition for that site. You would think somebody else could have come along in the last, 10 years or so and built a new page from the ground up that would also host a lot of
I think
this information.
the issue isn't that there's no competition. I think it's that the people that use BGG are kind of like comfortable using BGG.
Exactly.
So they don't bother
And
to
so
change it.
making a new site will do wonders if you can get the people to move.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not just the people who use BGG who post there. The Board Game Geek community is one thing. I have done my time in game store retail, and there's an even bigger community of people who are like, well, all the information is there on Board Game Geek. Why would I go anywhere else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
so
a big
there's
part
this
of it.
secondary market, effectively.
Yeah.
It's true. They have a giant database of all things gaming.
Yeah.
And it's like that is I would guess that is the biggest reason that they're still around.
Right. Yeah. It might have been too that like when they originally developed the site, they just don't have a tool set through how they host it in order to modify it. Like it might be one of those things where they have to literally migrate the site to someplace else in order to redo it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kamatanamori is right in chat as well. It's like, hey, the people who play board games mostly don't use Board Game Geek, so it's a subset of a niche market. Putting my own spin on that, it's like, yeah, it's right there in the title. Board Game Geek is for Board Game Geek people. That's it. That's who it's for. It's for the people who are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally, I've tried using it a few times. Just the interface is so not user friendly.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't do this.
If anyone out there, I would actually also say, hey, if anyone out there has another site that maybe does have a good interface that talks about board games in that regard, I'd actually be interested. I want to know if there is another option for people who would like to be able to actually navigate a site in any meaningful way.
Honestly, I think people mostly chat about games on their Discord channels now.
Yeah, I guess so. Probably.
I mean, that's kind of what we're doing right now. So
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, and I mean,
Ars Technica runs a series on board games and board game reviews. It's not their main focus, obviously, but I think they call it cardboard or something like that.
Is it heavy cardboard?
Is it made out of cardboard?
It is cardboard.
Oh.
I get it.
Oh. Okay. Great.
I hope our viewers aren't getting a little bored out there.
Now I have to hurt you.
I hope they're insanely bored.
And I know you
because
live
at
in my
least
state. That's the worst part. I'm within distance.
see, drunk Paul just threatened all the people listening, so it's fine.
All of you, every single one of you are within stabbing distance.
And also
You may
everybody
think,
that's currently in
I'm
Dark
across
Souls.
the entire planet. How could you possibly know? No, you're not safe.
I mean, let's be technical. If you have enough effort put into it, everyone on Earth is within walking.
Yeah, I have enough spite.
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah. If you're a power walker and swimmer,
I didn't. Maybe not easy walking distance. Maybe not
Listen,
walking
I can walk
possibility,
onto
but,
the
but
airplane, I
technically
can walk off the
within
airplane.
walking distance.
Ow! Fuck you, giant.
No, fuck you.
Don't
I
hit
mean,
me.
if you have those 7 league boots, then anyone's within walking distance.
oh yeah,
Within a few minutes.
yeah.
I'm
Hey,
just here to hurt.
You know what? If
If you're asking, you mean me? Yes, you. You in particular.
if I get on my water skis and grab a couple dolphins, I can go wherever I want. I'll just
Exactly.
yeah.
Aren't you scared of sharks?
Oh god!
That's why I said dolphins.
I'm gonna cut you into.
Baby shark.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Little bit of rage.
no,
Baby
no,
shark.
we're not doing baby shark. No, we're not doing baby shark. You know,
No baby shark.
Bring it-
Fuck that.
Okay, no baby shark.
bring it back around.
Do,
Thank you for the link, by the way, DC. In case
Yeah.
anyone's looking for ours cardboard. But I wanted to say, since we were talking about spoilers and we were talking about tabletop, I wanted to say I think it's great that no one has ever spoiled D&D for me. I still don't know how
Players
Dungeons.
die at the end.
I still don't know how Dungeons and Dragons ends. No one's ever told me.
That's good
I
point.
can tell you how it. Do you want a spoiler? Do you want to know how it ends?
Sure. How does it end?
It ends in tears.
Yeah,
Tears?
that sounds about right.
Oh,
Eh,
Dungeons
Your
and
entire
Dungeons and
campaign
Dragons.
breaks and your D&D laughs. I was
Uh,
gonna say DM, but honestly, your D&D laughs is probably a more accurate description.
Your D&D ends when the DM rage quits and kills you all.
oh.
well, that's
That's impossible. My DM is too weak.
and that's also not entirely true. I've been in and run a number of campaigns that have come to actual gracious closes,
Yeah,
but it's going to end in a different way every time.
that's
And
true.
I
yes,
have
I
been
have
in
been in more campaigns that just either stop or fall apart or flame out or
Right.
I have been in a
Etc.
campaign where all the players and the DM agreed that this is the natural end point of these. Oh, fuck off! Of these characters. This is where they would retire and relax and come into a natural, relaxed conclusion. And it was a mix of all of us going, "This is where we want these characters to finish. This is really." Man,
Yeah.
I mean,
these
the
characters
adventurer's
really don't
retirement
have
home
any
would be cool.
Oh yeah, it could be like Red, but with D&D. I had a thought process of a campaign like that.
There's our next show idea, Nathan.
Oh yeah.
Tales
Yeah.
from the D&D retirement home, or Tales from the RPG retirement home.
Oh, that's fun.
That would make a great
that would-
podcast. I would
would be-
totally listen to that podcast.
that would be fun.
One day we fought a dragon.
The Beef and Dairy Network podcast, but for Dungeons and Dragons, basically. But no, I think people misunderstood me. I mean, no one actually spoiled what happens at the end of the book Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
Yeah, like when you get to the end of the Dungeons and Dragons book, what's the twist ending? Is it Shyamalamalan kind of territory, or?
The twist ending is you are the hero.
Oh,
That's unfortunate.
Because you open up to the last page and
Whoa.
there's a blank character sheet just staring at you.
Whoa.
Yeah.
At the end of the book,
Wow.
the journey begins.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's deep.
Yeah.
wow. Oh my God, that's just like the original. That's just like the first Tomb Raider from the Survivor series. At the end, you find out it's your journey all along. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, and then
I see what
that's
you
where the
did there.
journey starts. Yeah, that's where the journey starts. Also, just side note, find it fascinating how many legendary lost cities there are in that universe. There's like one every game. I mentioned it
So
in
there
the
are
thing.
3 legendary lost cities.
There's at least 3, but then again, if I look back, I feel like a lot of the games had some kind of a legendary lost civilization that they
Even
were
real
getting.
life has legendary lost cities. Come on.
There's stories like the. Have you read the nonfiction story, The Lost City of Zed?
I saw the movie. I think I saw the movie.
I didn't realize it had been made into a movie, but
I
it's
believe The Lost City of
basically
Z is what
Yeah.
it's called.
They're not quite anywhere near as fantastic as the Tomb Raider Lost Cities and Lost Islands,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of forgotten and undiscovered and buried places on Earth. And
Yeah.
we haven't been around geologically a long time, but we've been around longer than people remember.
Yeah. For the record, I will just throw it in here because it was a movie. I remember watching a movie, and I was like, that sounds really familiar. But yeah, The Lost City of Z was a movie from a couple of years back.
Okay.
Which I think it was based on the book by David Gran.
And the book is fascinating because it's true to life. It's not dryly written, but it's factually written, and it is a real life adventure story that is in some cases crazier. If you take the literal magic out of Indiana Jones and like the submarine trip where he's hanging onto the outside out of Indiana Jones, it's crazier than Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Are
And
there Nazis in it?
I believe it happens after the collapse of the Nazi regime.
Okay.
So I do not believe there are actual Nazis in Lost City of Zed.
A book was written about it. Another one recently by a private journalist. Really good. Definitely recommend it.
Nice.
Interesting. Yeah. Here's another fascinating correlation. In that cast for The Lost City of Z is Edward Cullen himself, Robert Pattinson.
Oh, nice.
And Spider-Man. You get to see Spider-Man in there too.
What?
Tom Holland,
Which Spider-Man?
the new one, the newest one, the new Tom Holland.
Nice.
And Emperor Palpatine. I forgot he was in it too. You get to see people from all sorts of trilogies.
From alternate time universes and far off space. There you go.
That's exactly right. It's amazing all the people that they were able to pull in for that. So there you go. Yeah. It was an okay movie. It was fine, just for the right. It was all right. Yeah. I don't know if I really agreed with a lot of the choices the main character makes. I think that might have. Yeah. Goodbye, family. Hope you're all okay. Gonna go back to look for the city again. Hope you're okay, wife and small child that I'm going to leave indefinitely on this quest.
The book dramatizes that far less for sensational matters.
Yeah.
There is definitely the obsession though.
Yeah. I don't think they dwell on it too much, but in the short time where that becomes the thing, I'm like, all right, you were away.
And there's the little fish that go into your private places and just latch on.
Right?
Parasites.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Parasite. Yeah.
Those
No,
can be
don't pee in the water.
Yeah.
No.
Nope.
Mother Nature will have her revenge.
Yeah. You pee in me. You're going to feel my wrath. Sorry.
You go into me, and I'm going into you.
That's right.
There's some parts of nature and society that I'm really curious about, and there's other like, oh, thank you for the warning. I'll stay over.
Yep.
I don't
wanna
want to know any
anymore.
more than that.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that yeah. No, when people start telling me about those sort of things, I just think to myself, glad I know, glad I'm informed, never want to talk about it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never Google clock spiders.
Oh, yeah.
Now I want to
No, there's
Google it and
some-
throw the page up on the Discord.
What
so it's
was
on
the-
the stream?
There's another. There's an. I need to look for something. It is because I remember I was playing Fallout New Vegas, back when Fallout was good, and in Fallout New Vegas, there is this jerk enemy that is called a Cazador, and the thing that is terrifying is that it is based on an actual thing. It is based on a tarantula hawk spider wasp. Yes, that is one creature with 4 terrifying names. And it is like, if you actually look at what this thing is, it's like, how did this thing come into being? Because it's a spider wasp that hunts tarantulas. It's literally like a flying... It's a giant flying insect that sees tarantulas and goes, "Gonna get you. I'm eating you now." It's that.
Supposed to be a clock spider.
Yeah. No, don't look up clock spider. You don't want to look up clock
No.
spider.
It's just a big spider.
That's a tarantula. Spider wasp. It looks
That doesn't even
unassuming
look
enough.
like a spider.
No, it's a spider
That's
wasp.
a tarantula hawk. Never mind.
It's a tarantula hawk spider wasp. It's actually a spider wasp, but they consider it a tarantula hawk because it's a hawk to tarantulas. Tarantulas see it and they go, "That's a hawk." No, that's a wasp.
The hawk
See that-
spider wasp has a very simple attitude. I understand you're scared of this, but I'm gonna kill it, eat it, and then make sure you know.
Yeah. So the thing that really brought up a bigger question for me when I saw them in Fallout is, so they're supposed to be the mutated insects, and if I remember correctly, they were created by Dr. Boris at a DNA splicing lab in Big Mountain, and I have to think to
tarantula
myself,
hawks. We have those in OKC.
oh, great. And I sat there and I thought to myself, of all the things you would want to genetically splice to make them bigger and meaner, why? Why this? Why did you
Because
think that would be a
if
good idea?
I have it to kill things,
Yeah.
no one will try me.
Oh yeah, it worked out real well for him too. It worked out great.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with this giant predatory insect? Mutating that seems like a great idea. Can't wait. Yeah.
Sure you can.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so now we know so much more about terrible things. Glad we got that out of the way. Yeah, it stings tarantulas and lays eggs on them. Thank you, Coma. Yeah, it's...
Nathan's gonna have great dreams.
Oh my god, I'm so scared. I also like the fact that, Steve, you mentioned glove and boots.
Yep.
Why time travel
Well,
is
tell
stupid.
him where he got there first.
Yeah, why time... There is... Yeah. There is no place to take a feces, Mario. Yeah, that was a fun video.
And
I mean, it's true for Skyrim too. There's no bathrooms.
No! Even when you go into the houses.
You're supposed to run outside.
Well, you see,
possibly outside the city and go.
Skyrim belongs to the Nords. They can poop wherever they want.
The Nords do whatever they want.
I do love the phrase "Skyrim belongs to the Nords and everything in it belongs to the Khajiit" because it's a pretty apt attitude. You can claim your land, but they're just gonna stay here.
Yeah, the Khajiit will just take everything.
I think Austin on the Science did a video about the fact there are no outhouses or anything or bathrooms in Skyrim once.
And
Austin amuses me.
but if you really think about it, I don't really know if they included like bathrooms in the other Elder Scrolls games. Like, I don't remember that.
There are a very few that are usually used, but they don't waste the space on bathrooms, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like in the Fallout series, there are usually they're pretty much just run down, like stalls. So
Yeah,
you see
but they
those.
actually have bathrooms.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, you can actually build, that's right. You can actually build bathrooms. Forgot about that. It's fascinating the places where they actually think to put those in, and where they don't. I guess in a world with dragons, there you have certain priorities. Mostly kill the dragon.
Where there's a world with dragons that are terrifying and everywhere, yet fucking deer you can walk 3 feet and kill one.
Yeah.
Shitting your pants is not exactly a concern. It's more of a just.
I mean, you say there's dragons, but at the time when you're playing it, the dragons had just returned, so there should be bathrooms.
That's true. But I feel like bandits seem to just appear and go, "Give me your money." And if you're just some fuck with a halberd,
yeah,
shitting your pants seems to be something that would happen.
Well, there were still like giants and trolls and mammoths and stuff around. So I mean,
Did I ever tell you that time my game glitched?
Oh no,
Skyrim.
No, I haven't.
So I became the harbinger of the Companions Guild, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So this is after the point where you become a werewolf and Skewer gets killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So one of these times I'm wandering through the thing and I see Skewer out there fighting a mammoth barehanded. I'm like, wait, what? He had died earlier in my game because he dies in that storyline.
Let me out!
Nope, he was alive and fighting mammoths barehanded. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Skewer? I took your armor because you were dead. Why are you fighting mammoths?
Is that really a glitch though, or is that?
We all know that Bethesda
never makes
a single coding mistake ever.
No.
Bethesda making a coding mistake? That's impossible.
That's impossible indeed. I mean,
inconceivable.
I do have
to keep on using that word. I do not think it means
you know what that word is.
I appreciate the double reference here.
The Dread Pilot.
I see your double reference. Oh God, who's trying to stab me?
Oh man,
me.
That's fine. I built up.
Sorry, that was my hired assassin.
Yeah, no, I do have to smile because I realized, like, when they created the special edition of Skyrim, it still had all the glitches 6 years later after they...
That is like 98% of the glitches.
Well, that's because Bethesda never fixed any
glitches. You want to know the icing on the cake?
Mm.
So they released Skyrim for the Nintendo Switch, right?
Yeah.
And it had all the glitches in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo goes to Bethesda and says, "Hey, when are you going to fix these glitches in this game you have on our store?" And Bethesda says, "Well, our fans are going to do that. There's mods for it." Nintendo says, "What is mod?" And Bethesda looks at them and says, "What?" Long story short, Bethesda got fined, had to refund many copies of Skyrim. The game was pulled from the eShop, and enough glitches to be acceptable to Nintendo were actually fixed. So, in other words, Nintendo made Bethesda finish a game for the first time in almost 30 years.
Finish is a debatable term.
Well, yeah, Nintendo has no mod support.
Yeah. And I have many things to say about the core Bethesda GameWorks, and my most damning is, well, it'd be nice if you guys actually had business practices instead of just exploiting your fans and shipping unfinished content and saying, "Oh, yeah, they'll finish it." If anyone else did that, they would be out of business.
Yeah.
BioWare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, but I'm joking, but
Yeah,
don't kill it.
I'm not necessarily being literal, but this is terrible practice.
Right.
But this is now accepted.
Yeah.
Well,
The only place you can do that is role-playing games that are not on a screen.
Well, even that, you talk to people like Jeremy, and they'll tell you, no, D&D is a complete engine. We
Yeah.
give you all the rules. The game is finished. It has infinite expansion potential, but the game was finished when we shipped it. It has to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
yeah.
It has to be.
Man, maybe we should get a business going of early access tabletop games.
Man, who would buy that?
I know,
sounds
people
We
buy
can have them
ridiculous.
pre-order. That would be perfect.
I mean, people buy plenty of early access video games. Why can't we do it in tabletop?
You
You get to play this
That's-
game
that's
before
called
it's
Kickstarter.
done.
Yeah. You
Well,
pre-order, you get a new skin for your character in your
Wait.
mind. In your
I
mind's
won't
eye.
back a Kickstarter unless the game is like 99% done.
Yeah, fair enough.
Don't worry, it's already 99% done because you're already thinking about it.
Oh yeah, and it's all in your head. I do like the story though, Steve, because I'm realizing that if you were to look at Bethesda and you were to look at Nintendo, those are two very different philosophies of game design.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo would be like, huh? You don't ship your game when it what? What are you talking about? We build our game our games are built from like the ground. We don't ship it until what are you talking about? What?
Yeah,
What is
those
this
are
thing?
two very dramatically different perspectives on game design.
Yeah. Yeah. So when those two butt heads, that's fascinating. No, you're building it for our platform now. You will adhere to a certain level that we expect.
You know,
Sorry.
the funny part in this all too is the fact that they said, "Oh, our fans will fix it," but then
Yeah.
they shipped, Fallout 76, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not. No, you can't mod anything.
even
We're
mod
not gonna
that."
let you mod anything."
Fallout
Yeah.
76. They finally outsourced customer service and fulfillment directly to their fans too.
Yeah, they did that. It's great. Yeah,
They're like,
thanks.
"Yeah, you can't mod this."
The fans were getting the trouble tickets.
Yeah, I can only imagine them coming to Nintendo and Nintendo's like, oh yeah, well we can't. Yeah, no, we don't have a mod support. Like that's not what we do. And they're going, but we have the ability to put like Zelda weapons in the game. Don't you like that? And they're sitting there like sitting. I can imagine them
No,
just kind
I
of go.
do not like your ability to
Yeah. To put the
Ignore.
Master Sword? Okay, great. But then they kind of go, you realize that we like scrapped Metroid Prime 4 because we didn't think it was working and are gonna build it again, so it works the way we want it to, right? We're that company. What are you talking about? I have bugs in my game. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. You stated that you were gonna let a bug stay, whereas
You know about it.
we decided to scrap a whole game because a bug wouldn't leave.
We didn't like the direction it was going in. We've done this before. We will scrap
It's not
it.
called the Nintendo seal of sit on our hands and let the public fix it.
Well, like the original Metroid Prime wasn't in Retro's hands to begin with. They had a whole other studio that was working on it, and it was in third person. And then they were like, you know what? No, not feeling it. And like I think it was actually Miyamoto looked at it and was like, I don't see this working. You know what? Scrap it. Retro can be in charge of it, and they're gonna build it again from the ground up. That's how Metroid Prime. It's like we tried it the first time. Nah. Let's scrap it. Start again. You're gonna get it right this time. New studio. Not playing around. That's what we're doing. But then it was great. Somehow Other M still got made. I don't know how. But
That's because they needed a title and they just left it. They didn't care what the result was. They just gave the title away.
I was more disappointed with the character that Samus was in that game. I was like, I didn't like a lot of that game.
That game has plenty of issues that can be explored by many people and has been explored by A variety of individuals.
Yeah.
The simplest answer is, well, mistakes are made.
Exactly. I mean, it seemed like Team Ninja was a pretty reliable company, but
Well, I mean, the game works
it
fine.
works. It works fine. I think though when I did the
It's a
Fallout
technically complete game.
I actually think when I was talking when I did the video about Fallout 76, I did mention Metroid Other M, in terms of like thematically inside of a franchise, and I kind of said that it's pretty much like, you know how Team Ninja made Dead or Alive. They basically made like Metroid Extreme Beach Volleyball. That's kind of the problem I had with it, is that Samus is kind of framed in that way throughout the entire game. And it really didn't feel right for me, considering how cool she was as a character in Prime, especially. And I guess the perspective was also not great. I didn't like the third person perspective. I didn't like that I couldn't use my missiles because a dude told me I couldn't use my missiles.
Yeah, that was a variety of specifically bad choices. Why can't I see shit here?
Yeah.
You're blind.
Oh no! You will not fucking curse me, you fucking heathens.
That was also a problem with the game.
I will die before I get cursed, you fuck!
And on that wonderful note, I'm afraid I must take my leave of you.
Oh.
I have to be up early tomorrow morning, because I have a guitar competition that has my name on it.
Oh,
Not
wonderful.
literally, it has someone else's name on it,
But
but
there's a name
I must be there.
that's tangential. Thank you, James. I know that you had mentioned a couple subjects that you wanted to tackle, but maybe we'll tackle them on the next one.
Yep, I will be here. So,
All right.
well,
Get that
theoretically,
rest
I'll
and
be
break a
here.
leg.
Yes.
I'll be here to completely diverge every topic as well.
And he'll
dying.
probably
Well,
still be dying in Dark Souls 3.
Let's be honest, if I'm not, everyone would be disappointed. Oh god!
All right.
Speaking of dying.
Thank y'all for having me.
All
Y'all
right.
have a wonderful evening.
All right.
Good
James,
night.
We'll see ya.
Thanks. Good night.
Oh. Yeah. No, we were talking about trilogies, weren't we? Did we talk about my? I think we talked about my video now.
That was a
Yeah,
part of it, I believe.
we touched on it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I think there's probably more to unpack, honestly. But-
Possibly. I mean, I guess the question I had for a lot of people, I kind of asked at the end too, was if there were any other trilogies that people liked, and if so, do they follow that kind of model or don't they?
I do remember that question. Yes. I didn't have time to actually think deeply about the answer to it, though.
I mean, I could try to utilize like other video game franchises in that respect. And the first thing that came to my mind, because it's really hard to find like a trilogy in video games, at least for me. I feel like they're either like singular experiences that don't really follow a specific character, or they go over like 12 different games. So
like my instinct was to say Assassin's Creed, and then I go,
but
that hasn't been a trilogy for a while, unless you're counting the Ezio trilogy.
Yeah.
And even then, that's questionable.
Or if you consider Desmond, but then that actually goes over 5 games because it has Ezio's entire trilogy inside.
And then there's other issues, like a lot of modern movie trilogies, like the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy is actually only 2 movies. The second one is triple long and cut in half.
Oh yeah, that's
Now there's like a 4 and a 5 and a 6 too, but
Right.
back when there was 3, back before they extended the series, the second movie was, it's like, oh no, we're just literally just gonna stop the movie and pick up the movie again.
Yeah.
It's not a complete arc.
Is
Yeah.
that like what they did to the last Harry Potter movie?
Basically, yeah.
And every other side, like they did
Or
that.
what they should have done to The Hobbit?
Yes.
Well, I mean, they did the same thing with like the Twilight Saga and with Hunger Games. The last part, they like break it into 2 parts, because then people pay twice. That's how you
Pretty
do it.
much the only reason it happens. Yes.
Yep. Pretty much.
Pretty much. can't really argue with that.
No.
But let's see.
The only trilogy in that I can come up with on the top of my head from a video game perspective would be like Mass Effect was a trilogy.
Mass Effect was a trilogy, and structurally,
yeah,
I have issues with the storytelling. Structurally, actually, it does follow that model. So if I'm putting my issues with the actual storytelling aside, and the story construction, the model is actually very. You start with Commander Shepard starting their journey as finding out that there's a bigger galaxy out there. There's something more than just I'm a commander for the humans out there.
There's an actual
and
threat.
Then you go through the second one of discovering the deeper threat, and then you finally get to the third one of we're left in the position where the choice we make is going to change us / everything forever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
yeah, very very much a similar broad strokes narrative structure.
Yeah. If it weren't quite for like that's the one thing where like at the very end it does feel like it I guess Shepard does get to I mean I guess technically Shepard does get to make a one of many choices, which does kind of undercut the idea that you were making all these choices throughout the course of the game that you thought were going to amount to something.
Mass Effect, my Mass Effect's main place in my is it's a game that bought me 3 steak dinners.
Okay.
And the story for that is very simple. And it's when the first one came out, the friends that I was hanging out with at the time were all aboard the hype train of, oh my gosh, it's a game where all of your choices matter. And I said, hey, I can tell you exactly what's...
Lost for a second.
Oh, rip.
Where did Steve go?
I don't know, but I'm being chased and I'm running.
What? Steve, where are you?
Hello?
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We lost you for a minute.
Yeah, my internet just suddenly went very, very red in the
weird.
connection. And
Weird.
where was I? The
knew
prediction
exactly where it was going.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so you're going to make all these choices, and then it's always going to come back to the very same boss fight at the end, and then your choices are going to be showing up in an epilogue. And then and guess what? That's exactly what happened. No matter how you play it through, the same boss fights, the same beats, the same finale, the same final choice. And then Mass Effect 2 is coming out, and I'm hanging with the same group of friends, and we basically we had put some money on the first one, and it was enough to buy a steak dinner. And it's like, hey, you want to do the same bet again? It's like, you know what? Let's do it again. I'm going to make the same prediction, exact same prediction. And I was the only one who said, no, it's gonna be linear.
Yeah.
You're gonna always end up at point B. You're gonna always pass through points A prime, A double prime, and A gamma to get to point B. And lo and behold, that happened. And then Mass Effect 3 is coming out and said, I'm gonna double down. I'll put everything I've won from the first two, that the ending of the entire trilogy is gonna come down to which button do I push. Lo and behold, not a single choice you made matters in the ending. No. Which button do you push?
Yeah.
And I ate like a king that night.
It was
I would imagine.
I did like that part. They did this much better with between part 2 and 3. Some choices mattered. So my sort of journey with my Shepard was different from my friends. And even though we came to the same place, we could still talk about these little differences in the story. Even though, you're absolutely correct that at the end, you're still faced with the same conclusion. There was still parts of that journey that facilitated more discussion.
And the character stories were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they did. I think the reason why the ending was so disheartening is that, like, through those games, like the individual character arcs that your crew takes, and like all the characters that you meet, they do translate from one game to the next game to the next game. They do expand upon them, pretty well. So when I get to the end, and I'm able to like capitalize on the fact that I tried to keep my relationships with the Geth and the don't remember their names now, but those the Quarians and the Geth, I had kept really good relations with both of them, and had done all of Legion stuff and done all of Tally stuff. So in the third one, when I could finally, I actually had the option of not having either of them die and actually have them work together at the end. I felt a real sense of accomplishment. Because that's not easy to do.
I think its biggest weakness was they said your choices matter, and they were right. Your choices could matter, but they didn't matter to the major plot.
Right. It was kind of like they did something similar in a game that I really liked. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. I did quite a bit, but in Walking Dead Season 1, which was Telltale. Through all those chapters, you make decisions, and they do affect the characters. But by the end, basically the characters that were gonna die died, and you get to the same point. There is this one part though where they have a wrap up where one character who's been watching you asks you and kind of judges you based on the decisions that you made, but it really just does not change the ending at all. So they kind of resolve the fact that you did something different, but they still get everybody to the same point at the end. You still kind of get railroaded. And I didn't really know if I liked that or not. I kind of understood why they had to do it, but I felt like you were trying to sell me on one thing, and then you didn't really deliver on it. But then the ending was really good, so I was like, all right.
My biggest issue with that was that there was this big sell on you can change fate by your choices, and they didn't. There was the implication that the game's result will change, not so much your result. And if they had been very much BioWare's strength is writing in character, but BioWare's very good at that.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look at something like Jade Empire. It's amazing.
But
underrated too.
And had they literally gone, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm putting forward, they would have gone much forward. That your characters, your strength, and your overall ability to survive will depend on the choices you make, rather than your story will change. Because in the end, if you bring that up, yeah, the story is going to change because it's going to be a person's decisions that they make along the way that change the way they play the game. It's like any other game where skill and build or whatever changes the way you play the game and how you interpret the game. That changes the way that's the way your story is told. But when you say your choices matter and that's all you say, all we get is, well, I guess our choices are supposed to influence the plot because that's all I have as a basis.
Yeah. And I mean, I have played games where like the endings are different, or they give you multiple endings, mostly in like Fallouts and Skyrims. The one actual narrative I can think of where literally the choices you make along the way determine what happens at the end was Heavy Rain, and that's just one of those games though where I was like, now when people say though that like, oh, David Cage has a new game, I'm kind of like going, yeah, but I just can't anymore. like I understood Heavy Rain and I played Two Souls and they were fine. I just I appreciate the fact that like literally the killer in Heavy Rain can get away. Like if you made the wrong choices, the killer can get away and all your protagonists can die. Like everybody can die.
But
But
when your game can also be exploited for, well, if you don't make the right choices in non-critical moments, you just get a comedy in action.
Yeah.
Your game may have a mechanical issue.
Oh, here's I haven't actually played Heavy Rain. I'm familiar with it, but a question I've never actually had answered, and if you've played it, I'm actually interested.
Sure.
Does the game branch? I mean, I know that the decisions actually have weight, but can you actually play through different games from the same start point by making different decisions?
If I remember correctly, and it's been a while since I played it, but there are some, like it goes set piece to set piece for the different characters. But there are a few places where different characters can end up in different places at different times, depending on what you did. And I think there's a few places where you can choose where you're going, and it does change some things. There's a few ways that you can play, if you don't do the quick time sequences, or like I can't remember her name now, but it was like the reporter that was one of your main characters. She can actually go to a house and choose to interview this one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a few things that can happen at that point. One of them, I think she can actually choose not to go at all. But if you do decide to go, you're sitting in the room and you're waiting. Now, if you want, you can literally get up and you can leave, which I think is actually what I did. I was like, you know what? This is creepy times. This dude's weird. I am gonna leave. If you stay, you actually end up getting tied up in his basement. If you cannot escape from that basement, you die. And then that character's not in it forever, for the rest of the game. She's dead. Moving on to your next character. There's a few times where and then in set pieces where she would have been, she's not there now. And that happens there's like 4 different characters that you play. And there are moments where any of those characters could go into get into a bad situation. And if a character dies, or even a non-player character dies, they're just not there. They might have been there in later pieces, but they're just not there at the moment. And so they do switch some things up there, but I didn't play it twice, so I'm not quite sure. But some of those set pieces can change, and the people that are in it can change depending on what you did. If you can get past Ethan yelling Jason for 500 minutes. Jason! Okay, yeah. Ethan, shut up. Just shut up, Ethan. Just shut up, Ethan.
I'll stop myself.
Yeah.
Because that actually interests me. I don't know if it interests me enough to actually go try to play Heavy Rain, but that idea interests me, and you see this more in going back to a previous topic, in visual novels and dating sims. Mm-hmm. The route idea that, hey, you can end up playing wildly different stories based on, well, what do you do if you don't go to the pool, but instead go to the boardwalk? You meet an entrepreneur, and then the rest of the game is a traveling sales show, and
you're trying to get this group of people who you never would have met otherwise. It is very weird that dating sims have that sort of very, very branchable pathing.
If I remember correctly, like at the end of Heavy Rain, like whatever characters are going to be there kind of end up in the last scene. Although, actually, I think that there's a thing, like if your detective character hasn't actually solved the case and gotten the date, he's not there. Like, different characters may or may not be there, even if they haven't died, because they don't know to go there. So there's actually a whole thing where, like, you might find out that some of the protagonists that are still alive and well just are not in the ending because they did not figure out they needed to be there and no one told them. But if you were to look at the number of endings, there is like a pretty vast series of endings. And even if you think the killer walked away, even if you think the killer got away, depending on the information that the NPCs received, there's another character, and if they find out who the killer is, there's like another scene after it where the killer gets greeted by them at the door and she shoots him. So even then,
Huh.
he doesn't get away because he tipped his hand to her during your interactions with her. And she figured out you were the killer, even if all of the other characters you were playing did not. So you even have to be careful about like your NPC interactions, because they might come back and end up finishing the plotline for you. So,
unfortunately, in this thrilling conversation, I do have to run out. So have a good one.
all right,
I'm gonna
we'll
stop
see you.
dying in Dark Souls.
So yeah,
That's well, you know, you did what you could, right? Yeah. So no, I mean, I thought it was really interesting in that way. When I played Two Souls, it doesn't have nearly as much of the branching for the next game that they did. It was a little bit more action oriented, and you do get to scare the crap out of kids at a party if you want, which is awesome. Or you can not. You can just let the whole thing go. But so you do have choices throughout the game, but that's a little bit more linear, and I don't actually have much interest in playing Detroit. So I heard it's okay. But I don't think I like the mechanic that they included where, like, at the end of each scene, they show you the path that you took and, like, the other ways you could have gone. It's like, no, you don't have to show me, dude. You don't have to show me and ask me if I want to replay it so I do it the way that kind of ruins the whole narrative part for me.
I mean, I do appreciate knowing how much I missed. Like, oh,
Right.
well, it's different to know. Oh, I saw 73% of the game this playthrough. Okay, well, I'm only looking for some minor things. Versus, oh, I played the whole game. It was a 10-hour game. I saw 14% of the game. Wait, what?
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that part.
Or the thing where it's like, okay, you could have chose to live through this, or the other. It's like, okay, I probably didn't need to see
that I'm a little.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that for what was it? Life is Strange.
Oh,
Just
okay.
seeing 56% of people chose this versus that.
That happened in Telltale as well. It was like, so these are the major choices that you made in each episode. Like every game I play by them, same thing. Like there's six or so, and you see
they have their formula. After they finished with the Sam and Max and the Strong Bad games, they went straight into the interactive novels.
Yeah, the interactive novels. Yeah. I haven't played Life is Strange yet, but I do have it, and so it's sitting there waiting for its time in the sun.
Life is Strange is a unique beast. It's overall, I thought it was a very good experience. It has flaws.
Yeah.
And you will be very aware of those flaws, but overall, it's really good.
I was mostly interested in the fact that since like the David Cage kind of like Quantic Dream versions, and then the Telltale versions are really the only kind of like interactive narrative games that I've really played. I really I wanted to see what happens when a different company comes in and does something with it, because I feel like most of those games that I've played are really either like a Quantic Dreams or a Telltale, and really nothing in the twain shall meet. So I wanted to see someone else try their hand at it. So
yeah, and it's really good, and there's a lot of, wow, this really sounds like people writing like they think teenagers might have talked. And it's like, wow, this is the choice, really? But the heart is real.
Yeah.
And it's a trip. It's worth it. It's really worth it.
Yeah, I do like that. Ikoma did mention in the chat, he was mentioned Chrono Trigger. And I do
Yes.
like, I appreciate Chrono Trigger. I have not played Chrono Trigger, but I do appreciate the idea behind. But I do realize that with the level of technology that you would have to put into it now, trying to make Chrono Trigger today would be a massive, massive undertaking. Just the number of endings and branching storylines that you would have to script, write, it completely code the whole. I cannot imagine. I mean, Square Enix might be crazy enough to try it. We can hope, but actually today it has gotten easier again.
So I guess what Ikoma is saying is we've crested kind of a hill of automation and animation and so forth.
Oh, I see. So you wouldn't have to directly do as much of it. You could use the level of technology that we have so that you would be able to make those branching storylines without having to do as much technical work behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can see
the engines that you can use, the assets that you can purchase and reuse, the powerful rendering tools where you don't have to hand draw every sprite.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah, easier to make a 3D animated scene as it was to do a sprite animated scene. I suppose that's true. I kind of look at it through a modern lens that the little pixel art things seem like they're pretty simple to do now because it's now. But if you
interesting thing about pixel art is just like chiptune music, it has not gotten any easier. Did you play Final Fantasy 6/3 at all?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, the music in Final Fantasy 6.
Yes.
That is some of the best 16, some of the best 16-bit music out there. It is some of the best chip tunes out there, especially iconic stuff like the opera scene.
Wasn't that Uematsu?
Yep, that was Uematsu.
Nobu, okay, I was thinking.
One of the things that Uematsu did, which made it so magnificent, is Uematsu did not start from, I have these limitations of technology. Uematsu started from, I'm writing this music. And then I'm going to distill it down to its essence to get it to fit into this little box, but it is written as orchestral music. And that made it stand out from all the video game soundtracks. Mario was written, what sounds can we make Jumpman make on this box?
Right.
And FF6 is literally the opposite of that. How can we get this sound out of this box?
Yeah.
And sprite art is exactly the same. It's like, okay, we're going to art the character. Now, how can we fit everything important about this character into 56 little tiny blocks of color?
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So basically, if I were to look at it, if we were to look like Final Fantasy 6 and then like Final Fantasy 15, music done basically the same way, but with 6, I gotta try and squish it down into a size that works for the technical limitations that I have. And in 15, I don't, because I could pretty much just put the track in there, and we're good.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
I see. So there's
in many ways, not in every way, but in many ways, chiptune music actually takes more skill to produce than orchestral music.
Yeah.
It's a fraught subject because there are fervent arguers on all sides. It's not even both sides. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you have access to an orchestra and you can compose for an orchestra, congrats, you have this very versatile selection of instruments that has stood the test of time. This is easy mode, son. You've got to compete with Mozart. Now, can you do Mozart on an 8-bit processor and still make it sound like Mozart?
Yeah. That's I'm also really Ikoma made one other interesting fun fact for those who are not in the tech channel. In the original Super Smash Bros., the music stops during any sound effect because there weren't enough sound channels to do music and SFX at the same time. So there is a fun fact. I did not know that. That's
Oh yeah, and it's so good that you don't realize it because that's how tight the original sound design was.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't notice it, but it's kind of like Space Invaders. You just naturally you just naturally think, oh yeah, they're just getting faster because it's got to be more challenging.
Oh, I'm just hearing the higher pitched sound of my bullet. Well, no, actually, the do is stopping when you fire the bullet.
Yeah, yeah. And the whole thing, like, oh yeah, I removed pixels and now things are getting harder. No, it's that was the limitation of the processor.
They're rendering faster now.
They're able to render just a little bit faster. Hope you enjoy it. That was one of the bugs that they eventually kept. Oh yeah, no, that's totally what we meant to do. Oopsies. I get that. I guess it's just kind of strange, when you're looking at it through a modern lens, it always looks way easier. Because I see so many indie games that kind of like use the pixel style and MIDI music kind of formatting, and I always think to myself, like, are you doing it because for like a small team it's easier to make that happen, or is it a style that you're comfortable in for storytelling, or is it both? That's 3 options you have to.
And we're back to 3s.
We're back to 3. Hey, actually, it's funny. It's funny because we were talking about Final Fantasy, and there's 15 parts in that. That's a trilogy, according to Douglas Adams. So,
please go die in fire.
Well, okay, so I'm starting to stumble over my words, so I think my time might be getting towards its end.
Yeah.
First of all, the issue with that is Douglas Adams was just irrational, whereas Final Fantasy games aren't really just irrational to be irrational. Second of all, none of the storylines actually go along with each other. They're all independent games for like 10-2, and then like
in 13,
all of the whole numbered ones are an independent storyline.
Right. Yeah. 13 had 3 parts though.
Final but it wasn't 13, 14, and 15. It was 13, 1, 13, 2, and 13.
3. Yeah. Yep.
And then it was like Final Fantasy 7, and then the spin-off games they did, and 10-2, and
right. Yeah. Right. There are those, but yeah, no, the actual worlds themselves, those don't really intersect. Your characters don't intersect between the numbered ones.
None of the storylines have anything to do with each other.
No, except that you seem to battle the same enemies.
Like that one's more of a franchise continuity thing.
There's a cactuar in every damn game.
It's easier for them to use the same monsters than it is for them to reinvent new monsters.
Always a chocobo. I get that. There's chocobos all over the place.
That'd be like if every time they made a new edition of D&D, they scrapped the old monster manual and made new monsters.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You wouldn't do that. It would be a pain in the ass.
You wouldn't?
Well, and that actually, something that I was going to say while we were on the subject of like the hardware limitations, and it's actually still relevant with the bestiaries and the themes and so forth. I'm a firm believer that restriction is important in driving quality. Like, if you give me an unlimited budget and an unlimited project scope, I'm not gonna finish anything. I'm just gonna keep poking at it and staring at it and being paralyzed. But if you tell me even something as simple as here's the deadline, or here is the box, you cannot stray outside of the box. Now I've got this restriction of, okay, how do I use all of the box in creative ways? How do I make the box look bigger? And so on and so forth. I think that restrictions are essential for the creative process, and even something as simple and playful as, hey, we got to have Moogles, it's Final Fantasy, makes the devs look at it and say, oh well, this is a cyberpunk Final Fantasy in the far future. how we gonna fit Moogles in here, bro?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you kind of have certain things that go along with the thematic part of Final Fantasy, but you just have to keep trying to utilize them in new and unique ways. With each iteration, if there's ever going to be more
Yeah.
iterations, but no, I don't know. They'll figure out a way. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, 15's the last one, everybody. They said it.
Yeah, right.
they'll have
One,
like another
one was the
hiatus.
last one.
Yeah, one was the last one, yeah.
That was Square's swan song. It was they were done. This is it. This is the last game they were going to make. That's why it was Final Fantasy. And it saved the studio.
Ironically, Final Fantasy 15 is the only Final Fantasy game I actually finished.
Well, good. You've done better than Square Enix if you've actually finished it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I got to an end screen. I saw the credits. I consider that the end. You keep playing after that. Play around with it if you really want. I know. Then they had Royal Edition and all those things. I didn't get that one, but I got what they considered complete edition at the time, and not having all that familiarity with the other Final Fantasies. The one thing that I did feel was it did feel like there are certain story beats in that where they pay homage to some of the famous things that happened in other Final Fantasies. Like they were trying to, just kind of reference some of the other stuff that you're familiar with from other games. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure if I were familiar with it, it'd be great. But it wasn't until like for a game that's like 80, 90 hours long or whatever, it's like you don't really feel connected to the characters until about the last 3 hours. And then you're like, oh, wow. And then I felt sad at the end. But it took me a long time to actually get to the point where I really gave a damn if they... I was just playing because it was like, this is a fun game I like playing. But I didn't really give a damn about them until like the very end of the game when it was like, oh, shit got real. Like there's that moment in the game where it's like, oh, it's not.
I care.
Well, because so much of it is like we're on a fun road trip with a bunch of friends and they're going to a place, and then it like takes you into the future and the world is dark and okay, Noctis has to fulfill his destiny and this is probably the last trip we're ever going to take and yeah, shit gets real. At the very end, and you're like, oh.
I've heard a few things about it, and that actually makes me very sad that it didn't get its proposed, finish, because from what I've heard, that kind of, not even a bait and switch, but that kind of journey, that would be a really cool trip to take.
And the actual thing it is, like, I felt like it was an ending. Like, I legitimately did feel like they got to an ending, and the ending was good. It felt like what they did is they lured you in with the fact that it's a fun, cool road trip with these 4 characters. And you learn about them, and they have a friendship, and they're having this fun adventure. And that kind of draws you in because when it gets to the end and those 4 characters have to face the cold, hard reality that they've come to the end of their journey, and this is the end of the line, this is the end of the road, this is where everything stops. It actually feels like it has a lot more emotional weight because they just haven't put any of it on there before, and you're thinking back. And they do a smart thing, too, where you have Prompto who does pictures. And he takes pictures, like, through battles and stuff, and so at the end of every day, you're looking through the pictures of your adventure. And you can save, like, up to 200 of these pictures, if you want, in your scrapbook, the ones that you really liked. At the end of the game... I guess mild spoilers. I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but but there's a thing where Noctis where Noctis is going off and he has his last thing he has to do. And Prompto goes, "Hey, before I go, can I see the pictures? I want to take one with me." And so you get to go back and look at your photos and decide which one you feel like really represents your journey, the one that you really liked. Noctis takes that with him. Noctis is never going to see these characters again. He knows what his destiny is. and he has that photo. At the very, very end, when you see what happens with Noctis and he's kind of come to the end, that photo is still in his hand, and it actually pans down to that particular photo at the end. When the credits roll, photos from your album are actually shown over the credits.
Huh.
Which is really neat. And eventually the last thing that you see is, again, the photo that you chose as reminiscent of your entire journey. And I know that because I went back and I chose a different photo because I wanted to see. And it does. It shows you whatever photo you decided to choose at the very end. But it will show you the different photos that you decided to keep over the credits while Florence and the Machine play in the background. and you hear Stand By Me. And that's surprisingly effective because they kind of tie the whole thing together. That this was the journey that you literally took. It was a big journey. The journey is over, but you have these memories. And it's really effective in that way to kind of tie it all together, even if you were not necessarily invested right at the front.
Okay.
So I thought that was a neat little subtle thing that they throw in that at the end they are able to bring back to great emotional effect. So they did. I felt like that was a finish for Noctis and whatever her name was, Luna Stella, something, whatever the princess was. He was supposed to marry, who he didn't spend much time with. But then, but in the end, it's okay because because everything's fine. I guess. No, they're not fine.
Oh dear.
But they're together. That's kind of like the resolution is, they're kind of together.
I do have a soft spot for bittersweet endings.
It is
Transistor comes to mind.
Yes. Yeah, no, the bittersweet ending there is that, like, they did achieve what they were trying to achieve, but it's a little bit unclear in what form they still exist, if any. But they're together wherever they are. So it's kind of nice in that way. And then at the very, very, very end of the game, which I'm guessing they do it in a lot of Final Fantasies, but you know how they have like that etching piece that they do over the words of Final Fantasy? It's always kind of like the stencil piece.
Yep.
Yeah,
that part of the classic branding.
Yeah, classic brand. And at the end of it, having not played the other games, they probably do this too. They fill in the rest of that at the end so that you see the whole picture and it actually makes more sense what you've been looking at the entire game. Because that last scene then translates to the entire part of that stencil image that you only saw in part up until that moment. And then when you launch the game, you see the whole thing from there on out. And you understand what that was that you were looking at. Because I had no idea. And then they show it, and it's like, oh, it's that. Oh, okay. I didn't get that. So there's neat things like that they do at the end. So that was nice. I also get to ride a chocobo, and my card, and I get to go once you finish the game, you get to go back and you get to turn your car into a hovercraft. There's a fun thing too. You unlock the ability to you unlock the ability to make your car fly. The regalia can fly.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to mention give it to NPR so they can get money from the scrap.
No, they didn't do that. No, there's a whole thing, like after you've completed the game, they let you know that there's a new upgrade that you can install onto the regalia. And it literally will, if you're on an open road, they give you the option to literally turn it into like a plane, and you can fly around the game world and hopefully land on another straight road, or it will go up in a giant ball of flames as you crash somewhere. There's the one little thing. It will happen often. They do things like that. And then there's, like, they put in a couple optional bosses and stuff at the very end. Like that stupid giant turtle. It's basically if Rembrandt were a boss character. Bad. It's bad. It's just has like infinite health and it will knock you away, and if you get knocked too far back, all of its health comes back and you have to start at the beginning. And you'll hear people rage about how the fact, like, well, I finally got its health down a little bit and I've only been at it for 3 hours.
Oh, goodness. That
Yeah.
sounds like some of the old EverQuest bosses.
Oh, yeah. I guess they wanted to pay homage to that, too. But anyway. So, hey, you know, that's the best trilogy, is one that takes 15 parts and doesn't have a through narrative. Congratulations. Yep. So, anyway, back on topic, as we wrap things up for the evening, because it's getting pretty late. Any other thoughts on topics, things that and final thoughts from anyone? Talking Stick is up for grabs.
Sleep is good.
Did you hit a record by touching on 2 topics out of a plan 3?
Well, usually we have like 0 topics, and we end up hitting on about 12. So, I think
I did say we might not get to both topics.
that's true.
And you're like, yeah, we have plenty of time. I'm like,
Yeah.
you say that, but
Yeah.
I did have a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on, and thank you for suggesting one of our topics for tonight. Because that's always a good one. That's one I don't really think about very much, and it might be something we dig into more, maybe on an episode, if we can stay on topic sometime in the future.
I think it might be easier to stay on topic if there's only one topic that's up for discussion.
Yes,
but...
that might be true. Up on the docket today, one thing. We only talk about the one thing.
Everything must be related.
Yes, everything must be related.
Flounder really good.
Yeah, no, we do a great job with that. All right. Well, I think that's a good stopping point. If no one has anything else, and want to thank all of our guests who came on today. I want to thank Drunk Paul and James for coming on and adding to the conversation. And still with us, I want to thank Steve and DC for joining us. And Alex is here too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And so for everyone here on Delve, thank you for the people that are joining us today. We have a few people that have been joining us in chat as well. Your input has been appreciated, especially Akoma. We referenced you many times during this juncture, so thank you for adding to the conversation as well. And so we will see everybody next time, whatever that time is. I think if we keep this up, it would probably be the first Saturday of March, whenever that is. It's probably then. Look it up on the calendar. I don't know when it is.
That isn't a month, Nathan.
That
It's actually
in fact, exactly a month.
That isn't a month. Oh, it's 20. Oh, so it would be what's today? Oh, it would be the 2nd. So it'd be March 2nd.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So should be March 2nd. That's what we're going to plan on.
Not 30 days of a month though, because February is a short month.
Right. So it's exactly 4 weeks. That's why. I see. That's the problem. Is that most months I get thrown off because it's not even for weeks.
The months can't even, Nathan.
I know the months can't even, They just can't. February should have 30 days. Just take a day away from 2 of the 31s. They have too many
Yeah.
days anyway. Even it out. Just
Yeah.
even it out.
Hard to argue.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't
Give us 2 more
understand what
days,
happened.
February.
Oh well.
Hey, Roman politics.
You know, I wouldn't mind that because then you'd have an extra 2 days of work in February to accumulate rent money.
Yeah, that
There
does
is
seem,
this.
Yeah, that seems like it would make a lot more sense. Huh.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Gregorians. Anyway. Con. All right, everybody.
Con.
Thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.